Arsen Adel stood beneath the burning sky, bloodied and smiling, as memories of his dream returned slowly. It had once been hope, warm, bright, and foolish, but he wanted nothing more than destruction. Consumed by hatred, he confronted the light. His enemies trembled, yet he felt strangely hollow inside. Blades clashed, fire roared, and his vengeance ignited the battlefield, scorching every trace of what once mattered. As he looked upon the fallen, he whispered bitterly, "If I hadn't done all this!" The Golden Knight stood silently over the fallen foe, his breath steady, eyes locked on the ashes. "He's finally dead," he whispered, masking the uneasy tremor behind a trained smile and hardened expression. The world above rejoiced. A crater remained charred proof of the villain's last resistance against fate's hand. Footsteps echoed away. Epilogue. The villain's end marked the final page of the tale he'd written. The writer leaned back exhausted. His novel neared completion, but an unsettling thought still clung tight. Writing a story he resented drained him. Each sentence felt forced, every scene devoid of purpose. He sighed, "Tomorrow it's over." The end of his series would also end his frustration. Stretching his arms, he whispered, "I should leave my regrets behind." But something unsettled still lingered. Suddenly the doorbell rang. The sound cut through the silence, startling him from his thoughts. He turned toward the door, frowning. "Who is it at this hour?" he muttered, suspiciously tense. He approached the door cautiously, annoyed by the persistent knocking echoing through the quiet apartment hallway. "Who is it?" he called out, irritated. No reply came, just more knocks growing louder. He stood right at the door, hand on the knob, but suddenly the knocking stopped. Eyes narrowing, he whispered, "Was it some drunkard?" The silence outside made him even more uneasy. Shrugging it off, he sighed. "Man, what the hell? Let's just go to bed," he muttered. Just as he turned away, a glowing sheet of paper drifted down silently from above. He picked it up, frowning. Where did this paper come from? It shimmered strangely. The message read, "It's a gift. Please ask when you are in need." He blinked. "A gift? What gift?" he muttered, flipping the paper, then paused as something sparked in his hand. Red light flared. Before him stood the villain, bloody, alive, and staring directly into his eyes. He stumbled backward, shocked. "Whoop! What?" The villain's eyes burned with rage and something else beneath it. The villain stepped closer. "So this is how I die," he muttered, voice calm but cold. "I've put in a lot of time and effort," he added, staring deeply into the writer. "My power came from pain, sacrificing family for revenge," he growled. "But I still failed, didn't I?" The writer trembled. "Failed? You mean, you're—" The realization hit hard as the villain raised his hand. The villain reached out, eyes pleading despite the chaos. "So please!" His voice trembled with desperation. Dark energy surged. The writer screamed in agony, trapped by something ancient, his body writhing uncontrollably. "Do it for me!" the villain urged, fading slowly. His smile was tired yet sincere. The writer reached upward, mouth wide in horror, as his world fractured into glowing, glitching shards. "I'll witness!" the voice echoed faintly as a spider loomed in the void, watching everything unfold. He opened his eyes slowly, lying in an unfamiliar room, golden light spilling across the ceiling. Confused, he blinked. The air felt strange. This body felt even stranger to him. He sat up, groaning. "Ugh! Did I pass out?" His head throbbed with overwhelming foreign memories. Looking around in panic, he gasped, "What the hell are these clothes?" Nothing seemed recognizable anymore. His heart raced as realization dawned this wasn't his home, his world, or even his body. He stepped forward cautiously, unfamiliar footsteps echoing across a floor marked with strange glowing symbols. As he approached the ornate door, panic rose in his chest. "What's going on?" Beyond the door, reflections stared back. One of them looked just like him, but unfamiliar. An ominously calm man with crimson hair and a sly mouth stood where he once imagined safety. The slitted eyes revealed nothing. But in that moment, he understood everything I could tell, he thought. He touched his chest, gasping. It appears I have possessed the body, he muttered in disbelief. Of all people, he now lived inside Arsen Adel's form, the infamous villain marked for death. Memories not his own poured in, blurring reality and imagination in a terrifying flood of truth. Images of fire, blood, and betrayal burned in his mind. Arsen Adel's enemies were already drawing near. Sitting in silence, he whispered, "Let's start fixing the mess he left me to handle." Arsen Adel's story wasn't meant to last. He was designed to die, the doomed villain. He failed his revenge. That's why I'm here, his creator dragged into the very story I wrote. The system responded, status window. In just days, he'd face the elite bloodlines from the novel. Though skilled, Arsen Adel's abilities weren't enough. I never meant for him to surpass the main characters. Laughing bitterly, he muttered, "Mana control failure. How ironic. My own writing might be my end." He clutched his head in frustration until a strange light flickered again from across the room. "Huh? What's that?" he asked, spotting the same glowing paper floating gently above the floorboards. His eyes widened. "That's the paper. From before. The one that appeared before everything went wrong. I forgot all about it," he muttered, stepping closer. "Even if it's weak, I need something." He picked it up carefully, whispering, "It said to ask when I needed something, huh?" He stared at the paper, frustrated. "Why? It's blank. Where's the text? The hint? Anything?" Collapsing onto the chair, he groaned. "Is this really how I'm going to die?" Suddenly, glowing text appeared. "Creator, if you do not know how to use this, answer now." His eyes widened. "Creator?" he muttered, then shouted, "You bastard, you're Adele! Fine talk, I'm listening." The text continued. "Information purchase. Ask any question." He grinned. "Information purchase, huh? So you'll answer anything?" The paper replied, "The more you want, the higher the price." He clenched his jaw tightly. "Tell me how I can return to the real world," he asked, almost begging for hope. "It is impossible," the paper answered coldly. "Damn it, I knew they wouldn't make it easy," he scribbled quickly. "Then tell me how to use mana and unlock Adele's hidden potential." The paper glowed. "Yes." Power surged through him and he gasped, "I can feel the mana." "The first trait," the paper revealed, "is the power to use another's 5 senses diagnosis." Blue energy surged through his body. It hurt, but the knowledge was becoming part of him. He formed a sphere in his palm. "It's crude," he muttered, "but this will help." "The next trait, suppress enemies with your aura-building intimidation," the paper announced. He stood tall. "Position transfer," it concluded. He activated the skill, switching places instantly with a target from afar. He exhaled slowly. "I can only designate short-range warps for now," he said, focusing deeply. The magic was crude, unstable, and tiring, but with time, he could master this power. "Let's try that suit of armor," he muttered, locking eyes with the lifeless steel figure. "Position transfer, move," he commanded, reaching out as blue energy surged violently around his fingers. The room blurred, he warped with a flash, switching places with the armor. He gasped, stunned. A loud crash echoed through the halls. His first attempt at teleportation didn't go as planned. He groaned on the floor. "Damn it! Guess I can't nail it on the first try." Panting, he clenched his fists. "Doesn't matter. I'll keep doing it no matter how many times." "I will succeed. I will survive," he whispered, dragging himself up as determination burned in him. From afar, armored troops closed in. "Hurry! We must ensure we kill him this time!" they shouted. The wind howled above the Arsen family estate as armored boots echoed across the cold stone pathway. Inside, tension brewed. Servants stood frozen as heavy footsteps approached, their eyes darting nervously toward the grand hall. Captain Feltz of the King's Guard stormed in, his cape fluttering, eyes sharp with focused rage. "Where is he?" Feltz growled, voice thunderous. A trembling servant pointed toward a door, barely able to speak. "In this room," he whispered. Behind the door, a figure smirked in the shadows, silently awaiting fate's arrival. A servant, voice low with fear, reported. His state? He hasn't moved for a few days. Captain Feltz narrowed his eyes, dissatisfied with weakness. He exhaled sharply, then turned to face the chamber's door. The door slammed open. Armed soldiers stormed in, eyes locked onto the figure seated in the shadows. The figure raised his head slowly. You're here, Sir Feltz. You must hate the weakness of uncertainty. Feltz snarled, How absurd! Eliminate him! Swords unsheathed. Yes, sir, echoed the knights, charging with deadly precision and intent. Adele's eyes flared crimson as a system message appeared. Position transfer vertical bar designate. Power surged through him instantly. A knight charged forward, sword crackling with energy, yet time seemed to shift with an unseen force. Position transfer vertical bar move triggered. Arsen Adel vanished and reappeared beside another knight, blade already slicing through armor. Blood splattered. The ambushed knight collapsed, eyes wide with shock, body limp before it hit the ground. Captain Feltz gasped, stunned by the sudden reversal. This wasn't the weakling they had expected to fight. Adel ducked beneath the strike, kicked off the ground, and launched himself between two armored soldiers. Feltz roared furiously, What are you doing? Get him! The soldiers hesitated, then charged with renewed aggression. Blades clashed. Arsen Adel spun through the narrow corridor, deflecting strikes, countering with precise and rapid movements. Seeing an opening, he dashed backward, slipping through a gap, disappearing beyond the soldiers' formation instantly. A familiar flash returned. Position transfer vertical bar, move! Arsen Adel vanished again, choosing his next move midair. Adel landed hard, knees bent, aura blazing around him as another system glyph flickered overhead briefly. Blood trickled from his mouth. He gasped, I need to get to the Arsen forest, fast! Feltz spotted him sprinting outside. He's running away! Chase him! He barked, soldiers immediately following in pursuit. Dark trees loomed ahead. The Arsen forest welcomed him with shadows, cover, and a desperate chance. Panting heavily, Arsen Adel pushed deeper into the woods, each breath ragged, limbs burning, but he didn't stop. If I just keep running, they'll catch me. I have no strength left to escape forever. So instead, Arsen Adel decided, I'll go through the gate to the demonic realm to survive. The demonic realm has recently recruited outcasts, he thought. If I show potential, they might accept me. He sprinted deeper into the woods, panting. The issue is, I'm not sure where the gate is. Behind him, voices shouted, Spread out and find him. He muttered, It never said the exact location. Adel slowed his pace, scanning the forest. I'm sure it's near here, just a little further. His foot caught something beneath the soil. A sudden click echoed. He froze, startled by the sound. Eyes widened. A burst of light erupted from the ground, shaking the trees and the air. Energy surged violently. Arsen Adel stumbled backward, shielding his face. The portal's power had finally awakened from dormancy. Feltz appeared from the light. You slippery bastard! So that's where you're hiding, he growled, sword drawn. The energy faded. Arsen Adel staggered upright. I have 1 or 2 more position transfers left. He gritted his teeth and sprinted. I need to hurry and find the gate immediately. A floating prompt appeared. To reveal the gate's location, a fee is required for information. Beneath him, the cost displayed 100 gold coins or an artifact ranked relic or higher. Adel yelled, What? You think I have something like that now? The screen pulsed in silence. A shockwave blasted outward. Arsen Adel was thrown midair, body weightless as energy surged through the forest. He crashed hard, tumbling across the ground. Pain shot through his ribs as he gasped sharply. Feltz approached, sword glowing. Did you run away because you actually wanted to live, Arsen Adel? You will die here whether you like it or not, Feltz declared, raising his blade high. Arsen Adel glared up, blood dripping. He whispered through clenched teeth. Don't make his vision meaningless. Arsen Adel gripped his blade tightly. I'm not going to die. There's still one method left. I don't know if it'll work, he muttered, but I'll try it, live or die. Feltz laughed. Still resisting like a fool. What are you now, little heir without a throne? Adel smirked slightly. Bunch of grown men chasing one kid? Maybe you've all been demoted to nannies. Feltz's eyes twitched. Titch! Talking big again. Guess doing this alone is hard for you too. Feltz's aura flared red. You're going to regret forcing me to put effort into this. His blade surged with power. But your threat ends now. My sword will bring this down. He roared, Die! As he lunged forward, delivering a final explosive strike toward Arsen Adel's position. Adel's eyes widened. He raised his hand. Now, he whispered, focusing every ounce of remaining energy. Position transfer vertical bar execute. The system blinked. Light enveloped Arsen Adel. Feltz watched in disbelief as energy surged. Adel smirked, energy flaring wildly around him. Feltz's eyes widened. What? He shouted in disbelief. Before Feltz could react, a sudden explosion of orange light surged out from the forest's depths. Arsen Adel turned toward the glow, stunned. He recognized it instantly. That's the gate, he realized aloud. Position transfer vertical bar move. The system activated. Arsen Adel's body blurred, launching forward with unstoppable momentum and light. Feltz shielded his eyes from the light. He gasped, realizing Adel was vanishing from sight. Stop! Feltz screamed, surging forward, but his voice couldn't catch up to Arsen Adel's momentum. Adel bolted ahead. My foot's already on the edge. I just need a second more. The swirling red gate pulsed wildly. Adel's heart raced. Found it, he whispered through clenched teeth. Feltz roared, I won't let you go, and leapt, sword drawn, fury carved across his face. But Arsen Adel dove into the portal, body glowing, as Feltz's grasp narrowly missed him midair. Arsen Adel spun midair, eyes locked ahead. His body was almost through the gate's core. He grinned despite the blood. I'll see you next time, Sir Feltz, he muttered confidently. Feltz lunged forward, face contorted with rage, unable to stop the escape right before him. Adel's body disappeared into the swirling gate, leaving glowing trails of energy in his wake. Feltz landed hard, fists clenched. Damn it, he growled, forced to accept the failure alone. As the gate sealed behind him, Adel landed alone. His journey into the demonic realm began. Thunder echoed as Arsen Adel opened his eyes, damp stone beneath him, confused by the unfamiliar dungeon walls. His head throbbed while he sat up slowly, blinking. How much time has passed? He wondered aloud. He remembered collapsing after crossing the academy's mysterious gate. Now he was trapped inside a dungeon chamber. Looking around, Arsen Adel noticed unusual furnishings, stone bed, table, chair. Why is there furniture in a dungeon? He stared at a glowing wall and statue. Someone powerful made this, perhaps to guard something precious. Arsen Adel kept still, eyeing the glowing guardian. Its menacing aura alone made him hesitate to move. Knowing one wrong step might trigger destruction, he turned toward a sudden glow pulsing from a book. As he picked up the book, golden text appeared. This is the one time. Penalty applies. The rules were strict, no offering what you don't own. Break it, and no info is given. Arsen Adel sighed, reading again. So he's letting me go this time, huh? He muttered, narrowing his eyes curiously. Arsen Adel stepped closer to the wall. Its surface had a faint glow, different from normal stone. He placed his hand against it, and the surface trembled. Something old stirred behind the wall. He gasped. I can sense things like Adel. A voice suddenly boomed. You don't have the right. His hand recoiled. So this wall disables barriers, but I'm not recognized. That explains the rejection. Frowning, Arsen Adel stepped back. I'll need another method to escape. This place isn't simple at all. Arsen Adel observed a glowing stone. That must have dropped from the Guardian. Maybe it's a trigger. As soon as he touched it, the dungeon trembled. A system message announced, Position transfer, designate. Before he could react further, a blinding light swallowed him. Another message appeared. Position transfer, move. Suddenly he materialized in a crystalline cavern. Nice, it worked, he said just before hearing something roar. He turned swiftly, huge jaws snapped toward him. A monstrous beast lunged from the shadows without warning. A blood-red eclipse hung above the demon realm's capital as tension brewed across its grand towers. Inside the castle, a flaming demon landed harshly. You idiot! How can you spill it here? An officer below scowled in panic while reprimanding the rookie for a grave and foolish mistake. In the shadows above, a figure watched Crete, heir of the demon realm's ruling family, emerged silently. Crete sighed. If even a minor disturbance worries them, how will they survive what's coming soon? Crete rested his chin on his hand, whispering, "This is tricky," as he weighed his options. He knew if she passed the trial, she'd gain the right to enter the elite Satania. But even if he blocked her, she'd rebel. Her hatred burned stronger than loyalty to him. Revenge for her mother's death fueled her desire. Satania was her only path to strike back. Just as he doubted her resolve, a servant burst into the room shouting, "There's trouble, Patriarch!" Crete's golden eyes narrowed. "What's so urgent for you to disturb my peace with such noise?" The servant bowed deeply. I apologize. We received reports of an intruder in the hidden domain." Crete stood up slowly. "In the hidden domain? No one should enter it without triggering defenses." "There's no sign they opened the door," she said nervously. "Everyone's confused about how they got inside." Crete's thoughts darkened. They activated a function usable only from within. Could it be the chosen heir? Crete waved the servant away. "Heldi Amira has no mercy. Worry about yourself, not me." He paced near the window, thinking, if they don't die now, even demons will have to act. Meanwhile, Arsen Adel was blasted through a portal again, his body crashing with force into the ground. He sat up groaning, spotting a strange beast. "Was that a wolf? I almost died there." The portal pulsed again behind him. "Now the rift's unstable. If it closes, I'll be stuck forever." Arsen Adel paused to think. But wait, wasn't that wolf made out of stone too? His eyes lit up. "Nice. Let's try it." He held the artifact and activated its magic. The system responded, "Position transfer. Designate." Arsen Adel aimed directly at the stone guardian mid-charge. In a flash of light, the massive beast vanished from sight. Arsen Adel gasped, "It worked!" Energy surged around him as the portal absorbed the guardian's form. Arsen Adel stood stunned, breath steadying. The remaining wolf froze mid-charge, confused. It sensed something had changed but couldn't understand what vanished. A massive blast erupted behind it. Arsen Adel sprinted away, not looking back at the explosion. He muttered, "He'll die doing that," knowing the wolf's aggression wouldn't help it survive the shift. As he searched for the exit, a shadow appeared. He stopped. "I guess not." Arsen Adel backed away. "So there's a mission at every stage, and this one's worse than the wolf." The portal shrieked violently as Arsen Adel ran. Blue sparks surged. This transfer felt unstable and dangerous. He pushed forward, muttering, "My body isn't handling this well. Is this energy really from me?" Stone walls shifted around him. "It's adapting to me, like it's reading my soul," Arsen Adel realized, breath quickening. He skidded to a halt as the chamber lit up. A voice echoed, "Welcome, challenger." Arsen Adel stared forward. "What? You welcome an intruder?" he said, confused. "What the? Is this test conscious?" Arsen Adel peered into the glowing mist. "It feels like a boss room. Is someone in there?" A hulking figure emerged, armor drenched in dark mist. His eyes widened. "A death knight?" Chains radiated cursed energy. "Razor chains. They force me to fight. No way to escape that power." The Death Knight raised his blade. "I repress my regret for coming here," he muttered coldly. Just then, the system activated. "Position transfer designate." Arsen Adel narrowed his eyes. "That's the treasure box." Arsen Adel approached the vault. "It's bigger than I thought. Marked with a black dragon engraving, too." He examined it closely. "Why's a black dragon chest here? Doesn't fit this dungeon's theme at all." His eyes widened. Black dragon, one of the highest-ranking demon traits. Lust, gluttony, with envy, greed. Suddenly, an overwhelming aura emerged. "As evil and prideful as a black dragon?" said a thunderous voice. Arsen Adel stepped back. "If he catches me, then I'm dead for sure," he muttered, with rising tension. Arsen Adel gritted his teeth. "Since it's come to this, let's loot the box and run." He flung it open. "There must be a useful item to escape this place or survive." A black mass shot into his chest, stunning him. "What? Is this energy?" he gasped. His body convulsed uncontrollably. He screamed as dark power flooded his veins, burning like acid inside. Falling to his knees, he vomited violently. "Huff! Huff!" His vision blurred as the curse kept spreading. Arsen Adel screamed as his body was slashed from the inside, black energy tearing through muscle. He collapsed, arm outstretched, blood painting the floor. Darkness closed in as his heartbeat slowed violently. Gasping in darkness, Arsen Adel clutched his side, disoriented, heart pounding against the silence of night. The cold stone beneath him pulsed with blood. He forced himself up, confused, pain searing every limb. Staggering to his feet, he reached for a dagger only to realize his vision was distorted. One eye was gone, the other corrupted, black and gleaming. A cursed eye. What touched me? A screen appeared. Eye of Superbia. An accident? No, his curse had become a powerful gift. Arsen Adel clenched his fists. With this new power, he wouldn't lose to mobs ever again. He exhaled slowly, calming himself. Coming here wasn't a mistake. That ruin held more than power. He turned from the opened chest. A faint sound echoed he'd overlooked a large hidden door. Fear crept in. "They heard me. I'll be surrounded if I step outside now." His hand trembled. "First, they mustn't know I'm Arsen Adel. If they do, I'm dead." He hid the mark. The creature outside roared, drenched in violet flame. "Open the door now!" It thundered without pause. Arsen Adel froze, hearing the voice. Someone important was arriving. His instincts told him to stay hidden. Another guard pounded the door, shouting, "Her Highness is coming! Open it now or suffer!" "Her Highness," Arsen Adel whispered. Doubt crept in. Were they mistaking him for someone else? Or expecting her? He stepped back. This domain. A trap? A trial by nobles? He had to know who ruled it. Arsen Adel stared at the glowing panel. It displayed unknown data. His bloodline was under active analysis. "The information is vague," it read. Arsen Adel's heartbeat quickened. Someone was tracking him through this ancient system. A rune activated. Blue light wrapped his body. "They'll locate me soon if I don't escape." The message pulsed. "The closest heir to you is approaching." Heavy footsteps echoed through the corridor. A towering knight appeared, radiating authority. Arsen Adel's breath caught. Shit. If she sees me, my life's over. This is a training domain, Arsen Adel realized, designed by Boreas for their youngest daughter's development trials. He watched as the knight destroyed a guardian. Eye of Superbia helped her bypass the system. Jewel. She holds full authority here, he muttered. She'll reach me the moment the path clears. Arsen Adel turned toward the portal. I can't run forever. If I must fight, then I'll strike first. Straightening his back, he walked forward. All right. I'll do it, he whispered, stepping into his decision. The girl stepped forward, calm and sharp-eyed. Who are you? She asked without hesitation or fear. Arsen Adel responded smoothly, hiding his nerves. Congratulations on clearing the domain, Miss Renee. You've earned it. He bowed slightly. You're finally worthy, he added, voice steady, though every muscle tensed beneath his skin. She pointed her sword at him. Explain, she demanded. Her aura pulsed like lightning ready to strike. Arsen Adel kept his gaze low. The Patriarch sent me as your guard. His eye pulsed. Superbia knew her. Her eyes widened in disbelief. You? She asked, stunned by the face she hadn't expected. Arsen Adel nodded. Yes. Despite appearances, I'm skilled. He forced a calm tone, hiding desperation beneath formality. He clenched his fist. I'll use her to escape, he thought, eyes flicking toward the exit. She paused. Pfft! A strange laugh escaped. Arsen Adel wondered, does she not trust me or the Order? Suddenly, her blade flared. Arsen Adel readied himself. She said nothing, but her eyes studied him with doubt. She inspected the sword he handed over. How is it? She asked without changing expression. I believe I'll be useful in protecting you, Miss Renee, Arsen Adel replied, bowing with calm grace. She walked forward silently. Arsen Adel flinched. What, is she mad? Her reaction confused him completely. She muttered. Thankfully, she overlooked what I did, Arsen Adel thought, cautiously following her lead out. Please go to the patriarch, she said. I'll take care of other tasks, he smiled, retreating. I'll make sure not to be late, the red-haired youth said, racing through the cavern path. Suddenly he collided into Renee, barely catching himself. She grabbed him instinctively, confused by his presence. He turned his head, eyes wide. Ahead, dozens stood in formation beneath a burning red sky. At the front stood a towering man in regal armor. The youth whispered in shock. Father? The horned man grinned darkly. Oh ho ho. The youth backed away, trembling. Patriarch? His voice cracked with fear. The red-haired youth froze. Shit! Why is Crete here? Panic rose as eyes locked forward. He'll kill me if he notices I took the eye of Superbia, he thought, stepping forward. But Crete didn't move. Why isn't he reacting? The youth whispered, heart racing with uncertainty. Crete finally spoke. Did you clear the domain successfully? The tension thickened around them like smoke. Yes, the youth responded lowly. Crete turned. I see. Follow me, he commanded without looking back. Follow me, he repeated silently. The command unsettled him. What could Crete possibly want now? Nervously, he wiped sweat from his temple. The silence behind them grew heavier with each step. Guards surrounded him. I can't escape. They'll see everything, he thought, walking stiffly through the corridor. He looked up. So this is the Barias mansion, he realized, heart tightening with unease. Crete stood waiting at the top, arms folded, expression unreadable. The meeting was about to begin. Crete commanded, Return to your quarters. The soldiers bowed respectfully and moved without hesitation or question. Wait here, he said to the red-haired youth. I'll call for you later, Crete added calmly. The youth stiffened. He's leaving me alone. Is this my chance? The idea sparked briefly in thought. Then it vanished. No, of course not. He knew better than to believe it meant anything. He looked around the grand corridor. The silence pressed down like stone. The wait had begun. Renee stepped into the study. Crete sat calmly at his desk, fingers steepled in thought. I finished my last task, she stated. Her posture was straight, her voice devoid of hesitation. Crete eyed her sharply. Must you enter the training facility? His tone suggested concern, not command. Yes, Renee replied firmly. Her eyes did not shift. Her decision was already carved into resolve. Crete leaned back in silence. He understood her answer, but not without weighing the cost inside. Renee looked up and asked, That aside, how is he? Her tone carried more weight now. Her mind replayed their encounter, his eyes glowing, mana surging. The memory was still vividly sharp. She hesitated, then answered plainly, He's strong. There was no need for exaggeration in her voice. I see, Crete responded with interest, fingers resting under his chin. His mind began to stir. You've proven yourself worthy, he declared. You may now decide what path you wish to follow. Renee smiled brightly. Thank you. Her voice held sincerity, surprising everyone with how genuine it sounded. Crete reflected quietly. He survived the domain, claimed Superbia, and earned Renee's trust. He's worth using. Meanwhile, Arsen Adel stared at the wall. How long do I need to wait? He muttered tiredly. The sun set behind the Demon Academy, casting eerie shadows across the towering cathedral-like structure's walls. Inside, two young men walked silently beneath a grand chandelier, the scent of wax and ash lingering heavily. One of them spoke, breaking the silence. This way. I've brought him, Patriarch. His voice firm, slightly anxious. As the massive door creaked open, the crimson-haired youth looked up, locking eyes with a shadowed figure ahead. Seated on a Gothic throne, the horned patriarch smirked coldly, his golden eyes studying the boy's fate. Standing silently, the red-haired youth clenched his fists, thoughts racing. Just what is he thinking? He stepped forward, voice steady despite fear, and asked, Why did you let me live, Patriarch? The patriarch's lips curled, voice thick with venomous amusement. You bastard. You sure fooled my daughter well. In a flash of purple fury, energy burst forth from the throne, cracking through the chamber violently. The youth screamed in pain as dark energy struck him, his body trembling under the immense pressure. His body slammed into the floor, pain coursing through him. Breath ragged, he struggled to stay conscious. Still trembling, he shouted, "You don't plan on killing me!" His voice strained but laced with defiance. The patriarch narrowed his glowing eyes, voice calm but unreadable. The room grew unnervingly still. The youth, panting heavily, clenched his fist, thinking, "What incredible demonic energy, how am I still alive?" The patriarch leaned forward slightly, smirking. "You're quite quick-witted. What's your name?" he asked, voice unexpectedly curious. Kneeling with effort, the youth finally spoke. "I'm Adel," his voice low but clear in the silence. The patriarch repeated his name slowly, Adel, as dark energy began swirling from his fingertips in a sudden reaction. A dark figure appeared behind the patriarch, startled by the surge, his eyes narrowing in immediate suspicion. The patriarch stood abruptly, face intense, calling out once more, "Adel!" as the room trembled with pressure. Adel, pinned by power, gasped in confusion and fear. What do you want from me?" The patriarch's voice rang out sharply. "Open your mouth!" his eyes glowing with dominance and intent. A sharp object flew toward Adel's face, halting inches away. Another figure watched with stunned confusion. "You just need to continue what you were telling my daughter," the patriarch said, tone unyielding. He warned, "If you have any other thoughts, that poison will rip apart your heart." Adel collapsed, gasping. "I'll prepare somewhere for you to stay. Wait until I call you later." Adel stumbled outside, clutching his chest, thoughts racing in panic. Shit, just what is happening now? He looked up at a house glowing faintly under the night sky, his new place to stay. A servant gestured at the door and said, "You will stay here from now on." Adel entered the room, thinking, "I became a dependent of this household because of Crete's will." Staring at the plain interior, he sighed, "I'm thankful he let me live, but I'm being used." Sitting on the bed, Adel muttered, "Well, I was partially acknowledged by Crete after all." He stood up, thinking to himself, so this might actually be a good situation for now. Clenching his shirt, he focused on the glowing mark, determined, "I need to get rid of this thing." A burst of energy released the mark. It faded into his palm. It worked. It was manageable. He sighed deeply, thinking, "If I kill, he'll notice right away. So what should I do?" Adel noticed the creature stirring it woke because the mana supply from his body had been cut. Holding a glowing treat, he whispered, "Eat this," trying to calm it before things escalated again. The beast devoured it quickly. "Hurry and go back to sleep," Adel muttered, watching it settle. He sighed in relief, collapsed on the bed, and mumbled, "I wonder how much trap remains." As sleep crept in, he whispered, "Status window," and his stats appeared. But I should still check. Arsen Adel lay quietly, eyes on the ceiling, contemplating his insufficient mana compared to other powerful figures. He clenched his fists, frustration creeping in. How can I raise my mana level quickly? As doubt stirred within, a memory surfaced, an unusual, risky method he had once read about. But before acting, a cold voice interrupted. The black-haired demon girl glared. "I don't like it." It had been 3 days since she'd become his guard. Her silence and stares were relentless. Arsen Adel watched her silently. She used to smile, but something after the funeral changed her deeply. He felt guilt. As the original author, he had written her pain into this cruel world. A servant shouted across the courtyard, calling for both Arsen Adel and Renee to meet the patriarch. They walked side by side toward the throne room, guessing it related to Renee's domain achievement. The patriarch spoke bluntly. Saitan was unforgiving. Without strength, she'd die, and fail to avenge her mother. Standing near Renee's wrathful aura, Arsen Adel grew uneasy. "I feel like I really shouldn't be here." The patriarch paused, then offered terms. "If you take Adel with you, I'll approve your entrance." Renee glanced at Arsen Adel. Her answer came without hesitation or emotion, just a firm and final no. Rejection stung. Arsen Adel stood still, thoughts spiraling. She hates me that much? He wondered in silence. Saitan, the demonic academy, ruthless, brutal, and deadly. Even main characters died. Entering meant dancing with death itself. Arsen Adel stared at Renee. He couldn't understand why she wanted to go to such danger. He paused, reconsidering. If it were me, maybe that place is perfect to gather strength quietly. He knew the story's conflicts well. Major events between Saitan and the Imperial School were unavoidable. Determined, he grinned slightly. Yes, let's try it, he said, then turned toward the waiting patriarch. With dry lips and tense hands, he spoke. I'm requesting something related to mana. He gulped. The patriarch smirked. Oh? I thought you'd beg me to remove the fiction restriction instead. Arsen Adel stayed calm. He couldn't let them suspect he wasn't the real Arsen Adel from this world. Renee stepped away with stiff steps, her gaze cold and unwavering. She didn't speak a word. The patriarch leaned back lazily. It's not a difficult request, so I'll consider what you asked. Arsen Adel's heart sank. Does she hate the idea of going with me that much? He wondered. Arsen Adel stood uncertain. What's he planning to use, an artifact? That shouldn't be too dangerous. The patriarch revealed an heirloom. It's a treasure passed down. I once used it to test Anna's mana. Arsen Adel blinked. A family treasure? The weight of the moment suddenly felt heavier than he expected. Purple energy surged. You'll die out there. This is the least I can do for you. Come closer. I'll transfer the Reyes family's mana cultivation technique. Arsen Adel's eyes widened. That technique? Seriously? Patriarch invoked the forbidden chant, his voice trembling as purple chaos curled around his summoning circle. Dark energy surged, symbols glowing violently. Arsen Adel knelt, enduring pain as he pleaded for clarity through madness. His body trembled, yet he continued. If he failed, the demon god's fury would erase him. Breathing ragged, Arsen Adel collapsed forward. The demon's envoy watched calmly. Impressed, the human endured the sanity-breaking ritual. The demon smirked. You interest me. Now the demon god shall grant your wish, if you endure. The professor observed coldly, revealing Arsen Adel's family bore a mysterious link to the 7 deadly sins. Arsen Adel blinked in confusion, but the professor smirked, mentioning he'd already injected worm poison into his body. Arsen Adel stood silently, overwhelmed. The poison made betrayal impossible. Even if he tried, death was guaranteed. He quietly processed it. The Adel family connected to sins? I never wrote that in the novel. Dismissed with a wave, Arsen Adel exited the hall. Behind heavy doors, sunlight filtered gently through the trees. Arsen Adel sat on a forest stone, seeking isolation where no one could witness his unstable mana. He decided to train here, away from others, afraid his mana might spiral out of control. The ritual began again. Arsen Adel repeated the words, calling upon the demon god for forbidden strength. He knew accepting demonic energy meant sacrificing his ability to use human mana ever again. Staring at the growing darkness, Arsen Adel inhaled deeply. He had no choice but to move forward. A massive shadow emerged from the darkness, eyes glowing as it called Arsen Adel a mongrel. Startled, Arsen Adel faced the voice. Confused, he sensed something ancient and terrifying watching his every move. His breath caught. Don't tell me. The truth he feared began to surface within his mind. The being spoke again, claiming it had slumbered long, awakened only by Arsen Adel's unstable demonic blood. Kneeling, Arsen Adel whispered, Are you the demon god? The voice answered, They call me the god of rage. Arsen Adel shouted in defiance, asking if the demon god intended to kill him now. The demon god replied calmly if he wanted Arsen Adel dead, he wouldn't have bothered speaking at all. Arsen Adel listened, tense. The god spoke again, noting that Arsen Adel endured a pain no human should survive. Arsen Adel clenched his fists. I shall repay you, he vowed, with chaos the same as yours. The energy exploded. Arsen Adel exhaled deeply, realizing he'd earned 3 demonic lives, each sealed with terrifying power. Arsen Adel reflected on his body's transformation. The tattoo marks would soon cover him completely with power. A sudden rustle snapped him from thought. He turned quickly, alert and unsure of what approached. His eyes widened. A girl stood nearby, staring at him as if she'd seen something forbidden. Panic stirred. Why was she here? Worse, had she overheard his demonic ritual deep in the forest? Her voice trembled as she looked at him, confused and cautious. "Dark priest," she whispered aloud. Arsen Adel stared at the stat window, stunned. His powers had grown far beyond what he expected. It had only been a month since the mark was burned into him by the demon. The screen displayed stats: half-demon, absorption, mana manipulation, and several powerful traits linked to darkness and combat. He trained intensely, but the leap in mana was too great for such little time. Smiling, Arsen Adel realized he could now enter a hidden domain and rival even top human magicians. Before exploring the hidden domain, Arsen Adel spotted someone training alone near the forest's open clearing. He stared in disbelief. "Why is she training swordsmanship in the middle of my training ground?" Approaching cautiously, he called out, "Excuse me, miss." She stopped, turning to him with calm eyes. She didn't seem to recognize him. That meant she hadn't linked him to the Dark Priest. He realized only Dark Priests could contact demon gods, so she must have assumed he was one too. Arsen Adel felt relief. At least she hadn't overheard anything about his dangerous pact with the demon. Still, if she saw him as a superior, rumors could quickly spread within the household. He gently called out, "Miss," and she responded promptly, waiting for his next words with attention. He asked her to treat him normally, not with special respect due to his lineage. She hesitated, then explained she was ordered to protect him but agreed to act more casually. Arsen Adel smiled playfully. "Then," he began, preparing to test just how casual she would act now. Without hesitation, she crossed her arms and demanded, "Bring me some water," catching Arsen Adel completely off guard. He blinked in confusion. "Sorry?" Her confidence stunned him after acting so formal only moments ago. She smirked. "You told me to treat you comfortably." Her tone made it impossible to argue. He sighed in defeat. "Yes." Internally, he groaned he'd have to follow whatever orders she gave now. Arsen Adel returned with water. Irene sat quietly nearby, but her presence still made him feel watched. He sighed. "I need to conquer that domain." But Irene wasn't giving him any space lately. That domain contained the last treasure from his novel critical to surviving in the Chronicle's later chapters. He needed that artifact soon. Without it, he wouldn't stand a chance against what came next. Trying to stay subtle, he asked about exam preparations. Irene raised an eyebrow, sensing his real intent. Irene raised her sword and explained she followed him because she worried about his upcoming dangers. Arsen Adel replied calmly, suggesting she double-check her supplies, hinting she should leave him alone briefly. He added a reason, pretending to care about her forgetting something essential in her preparation. She cut through his excuses, stepping closer and demanding he stop dodging and speak directly. He insisted it was concern. She stared at him, unimpressed, and muttered with certainty, "Liar." Irene caught him again, asking where he was going. Arsen Adel cursed inwardly. She saw through everything. She suddenly asked if he was avoiding her. Arsen Adel panicked, realizing her emotions were getting involved. He confessed calmly, explaining there was a domain nearby and he planned to conquer it alone. Trying to stay composed, he said it was for her safety. Irene stood silently, processing it. Then she smiled sharply. "I remember now?" Arsen Adel froze as she teased, "Why don't you go back?" Arsen Adel laughed nervously, calling their back and forth warming up. Irene wasn't amused by his attempt to joke. She cut in firmly, saying she hadn't warmed up yet, implying she was joining the domain raid. Without hesitation, she declared she would go too. Arsen Adel froze, unsure how to argue with her. He stammered, trying to reason, but Irene insisted. "Hurry up and let's go," she said firmly. Before them stood their goal, a cursed graveyard. Arsen Adel exhaled, recognizing it, the domain of the undying. Arsen Adel listened as they discussed a domain overrun by wrath-filled undead, born of necromancer legacy. He nodded solemnly, recalling the dreadful region's past, its cursed soil now disturbed by war's forgotten echoes. Calculating quietly, Arsen Adel judged the place worthy of upper-tier danger, enough to rattle someone like Renee. His companion considered Renee's aid, though it risked slowing their movement and exposing plans to Crete. With a half-smile, the redhead offered Arsen Adel an exit, unsure if partnership outweighed the looming risk. The red-haired youth warned him, if the patriarch found out, it could lead to punishment. Arsen Adel, calm and confident, dismissed the concern. He assured him of a hidden route outside. Sunlight filtered through the forest as they approached the moss-covered wall cloaking the forgotten passageway. Stopping before the overgrown stonework, Arsen Adel gestured toward a crack in the structure. "Here," he said. Impressed, the redhead chuckled lightly, realizing Arsen Adel knew this place far better than he had assumed. Arsen Adel stayed quiet, arms folded. The redhead realized she likely used this escape route often before. She urged him to move quickly. He nodded, tightening his grip on the supplies he carried. They slipped through the underbrush, footsteps light, disappearing into the forest's edge beyond the hidden wall. Soon they emerged onto a narrow cliffside path overlooking towering mountains and valleys far below. Breathing heavily, he glanced ahead. "How much farther do we need to go?" he asked curiously. Arsen Adel paused at her glance. The redhead chuckled awkwardly, admitting he didn't know the area well. He confessed he never had reason to explore beyond the estate walls or learn the terrain. Pointing toward a ridge, Arsen Adel announced they were almost there. They just needed to cross that peak. A small rock shifted beneath a step, marking the last obstacle before their long walk ended. Standing together at the ledge, the redhead exhaled and smiled. "It seems we've arrived," he said. Strong winds howled as they approached the crumbling structure buried deep in the rocky mountainside. The redhead cursed at the sight. Arsen Adel's calm reply hinted at dangers hidden within the ruins. Privately, he vowed to hide his connection to the Arsen bloodline. No one could discover it. Arsen Adel confirmed the path forward. Only he knew how to bypass the domain's undead guardians undetected. They stood before a sealed entrance, ancient and ominous. The redhead recognized the domain's threshold at last. The redhead offered to take the lead, but Arsen Adel refused and calmly stepped ahead without hesitation. Flames flickered on the walls as they descended the ancient stairwell carved deep beneath the mountain. He glanced around, surprised by the ambient glow. The domain's interior was brighter than he imagined. Arsen Adel pointed to a shadowed hallway ahead. Without a doubt, they had reached the correct place. Before them lay a haunting structure, its silhouette rising from cursed soil. The true domain awaited. The redhead noted the difference. This place felt far more dangerous than the bear's domain ever was. He speculated there were likely over 100 undead braves lurking within the corrupted shadows nearby. Arsen Adel drew his sword. With a firm command, they advanced deeper into the ancient, cursed halls. Bones snapped beneath shifting stone. From the ground, skeletal hands burst forth, hungry for trespassers' flesh. Undead warriors rose in waves, hollow eyes glowing. The duo braced as they became completely surrounded. Surrounded, the redhead stepped back. "Miss, I'll leave this to you," he said without hesitation. Arsen Adel responded confidently. She drew her blade, its blue glow pulsing with silent but lethal energy. In one strike, she shattered the encircling undead, bones flying in the wake of power. Watching her, he smirked. Partnering with Arsen Adel had been the smartest move he'd made so far. Assuming more threats ahead, he raised his weapon. "I'll catch up soon," he shouted, rushing forward. Shattered bones scattered across the ground, yet dark energy pulsed again through the broken remains. Arsen Adel turned sharply as the skeletons began to reform, glowing with fresh, unnatural life and armor. Eyes narrowed, she readied her sword again. "They revived?" she muttered, surprised but not shaken. A deep voice echoed around them, mocking. "You must be fearless coming in here," it boomed. A towering undead commander emerged, sword drawn. "Eliminate the intruders," it growled, stepping forward to attack. Arsen Adel shouted over the noise. "They keep reviving! What do we do?" she demanded urgently. He pointed toward the looming enemy. "It's because of that caster," he answered without slowing down. Don't stop, keep advancing, miss, he ordered, cutting down enemies while pushing forward through the undead ranks. Dodging an attack, he readied himself. I have an easy way of clearing this, he said. Arsen Adel responded with a nod, determination in her eyes. Got it, she said, gripping her blade. The redhead activated his skill. Light flared beneath him as he launched toward the undead caster. Arsen Adel struck the advancing minions. The caster raised his orb, screeching, Stop them! To his horde. We just need to get to him! The redhead yelled, eyes fixed on the glowing orb. He knew the battle would end once that orb was shattered. Everything depended on reaching it. The undead commander appeared, blade drawn, ready to block their advance before they reached the caster. The redhead clenched his fists. I guess it won't be that easy, he muttered grimly. He shouted as the enemy surged. Miss! Arsen Adel turned toward him, alarm clear in her eyes. A brutal strike from the commander sent bodies flying. Rubble collapsed as the impact shook everything. Amid the chaos, the redhead focused. A system prompt appeared. Position transfer to designate. With energy flaring, he launched forward, his skill activating just in time to bypass the enemy block. The redhead soared toward the caster, eyes locked on the orb glowing with sinister, unstable power. Mid-air, he activated his skill. Position transfer 2's new ability, he began, heart racing with purpose, is swapping objects with each other. His blade vanished as the orb flashed red in the caster's grip. A second prompt confirmed, Position transfer 2, exchange. The caster froze, confused, sensing something had changed suddenly. Grinning, the redhead caught the orb mid-air. Nice catch, he muttered, landing with the prize secured. The caster's eyes widened in horror. No! He cried as the orb slipped from reach. A surge of dark energy exploded from his chest as the orb shattered, ending his spell. His fading voice echoed, How could this be? While the undead around them collapsed into silence. The redhead turned to Arsen Adel with a triumphant grin. We did it, miss, he cheered. Yep, she replied. Unseen, a whisper from the void lingered. Thank you, carried by the dying wind. He lowered his head, blaming himself. The tragedy here all happened because of what I wrote. With a quiet breath, he whispered, Please, be at peace, offering closure to the fallen. Arsen Adel called out to him, wondering if something remained. He replied, Yes, it's time for reward. His eyes lit up as the chest appeared. I'm finally getting an item I need. Inside the ancient vault, Arsen Adel discovered a dagger pulsating with darkness, humming softly under moonlit enchantment. Eyes wide, he lifted the blade, its aura responding to his dark trait like a familiar spirit. Smiling, he knew this weapon matched his powers perfectly. His potential with darkness would now reach new heights. He glanced at the glowing ring beside it, intrigued but unsure if it suited his path. Turning to Renee, he offered the ring with a grin, keeping the dagger that whispered destiny. Renee nodded after a pause, accepting his offer. She stepped forward, hesitant but slightly curious inside. Adele raised her hand gently, fingers brushing as he took the ring from its dark velvet box. Carefully, he slid the glowing artifact onto her finger, its light flaring the moment it touched skin. Renee's eyes widened in shock as warmth surged from the ring, awakening something dormant deep within her. Startled, she quickly pulled her hand away and clutched her chest, leaving him puzzled by her reaction. Adele watched her closely, confused by her sudden reaction. Did rings hold deeper meaning among demons? Curious but respectful, he asked how the ring felt, hoping it didn't cause her discomfort. Renee's aura surged. She marveled at the flow of mana, the ring amplifying her magic instantly. He chuckled, satisfied. Glad it suits you, he said, dropping the treasure he'd claimed from the boss. With a grin, he let the gold spill freely. After all, victory deserved proper celebration today. Her cold glare stopped him. She demanded every coin be split fairly, no exceptions, no excuses. They returned to the mansion after the dungeon run, chatting casually while walking beneath the twilight sky. Each day he trained harder or ran errands, slowly adjusting to his routine beside Renee's guidance. A full month passed. His stats improved steadily, especially his darkness trait and mana control ability. Then Crete summoned them. The mood shifted. A new task awaited deeper within the demon realm. Crete's voice was firm. He declared it was time for the young man to enter Saitan. The words echoed heavily. Both stood in silence, absorbing the meaning behind this sudden announcement. Crete explained they'd depart for the capital immediately. He asked if their preparations were complete and final. With brief nods, they confirmed readiness. Crete dismissed them coldly, sparing no emotion in his farewell. They turned quietly. Renee glanced downward, lips tight. Parting with him stirred something unspoken within her. Renee moved ahead without a word, her pace brisk. He remained behind, facing Crete once more. He bowed respectfully, stating he would leave now alongside Renee, ready to begin their next chapter. Crete called out to him. The tone shifted, less commanding, more personal, just for a moment. "I hope you'll do well," Crete said firmly. There was no warmth, only quiet expectation beneath pride. Adel smiled with determination, answering simply, "Yes." Then he turned to follow the path waiting outside. The carriage stood ready outside, guarded and polished. The time to leave the mansion had come. Inside the capital's grand hall, an attendant signaled their departure. Everything was timed and precise. Adel looked back at Crete's silhouette. The man stayed distant, still watching from above silently. He remembered Crete's earlier words. Maybe even demons had trouble saying goodbye when parting with someone important. Adel exhaled, anxiety creeping in. The future was uncertain, but he knew he had to move. Adel reaffirmed his determination. Whatever awaited in Saitan, he would pursue his goal without hesitation. The carriage moved swiftly through forest roads, wheels pounding the dirt with steady, rhythmic urgency. Inside, Adel sat silently. The awkward tension grew heavier with every passing moment of silence. He glanced at Renee, confused. She hadn't spoken since their departure. Had he upset her somehow? Renee's eyes shifted slightly, but her lips remained sealed. Something weighed on her mind, quietly unresolved. Renee reflected silently. He'd seemed suspicious at first, but now she admitted he looked more reliable. Adel, unaware of her thoughts, smiled brightly and made an awkward comment about the day's weather. She analyzed him again. His words lacked weight, yet his power didn't feel weak at all. Adel caught her staring and panicked inwardly, wondering if he'd done something weird without noticing again. Renee sighed softly. She realized her doubts were unfounded and finally admitted she may have judged unfairly. Renee clutched her chest lightly, heart racing as a strange realization dawned in her mind. She recalled the ring's meaning, an eternal vow. Among demons, it symbolized deep promise and bond. He'd offered it so casually, yet the act echoed through traditions rooted in ancient demon culture. She stared out the window, wondering silently what vow he had made without even realizing it. Adel broke the silence, announcing their arrival was near. She looked ahead, hiding the questions growing inside. Renee finally spoke, her voice calm. She said nothing meaningful, just acknowledged his earlier words briefly. Adel tilted his head, puzzled by her sudden mood shift. He couldn't make sense of it. Worried, he asked if he'd done something wrong. She shut him down, pretending to nap instead. The carriage rolled onward past vast fields and rising towers, drawing closer to their destination's border. Moments later, they arrived. Adel stepped out, greeted by towering walls and crowds flooding the streets. Adel looked around in awe, realizing this busy city was the capital of the demon realm. He noted the buildings and clothing felt familiar, medieval in design, like human cities he'd read about. Still, there were differences. Some people had horns or other features that clearly marked them as demons. Adel spotted a blond man with a neck tattoo, same as his sign of an elite class. Renee called from ahead, urging him forward. Snapping out of his thoughts, Adel quickly followed her lead. Adel asked where they were going next. The unfamiliar city buzzed with life around them. Renee explained they had 2 days before the exam, but needed to register as soon as possible. Adel suggested they explore the capital while waiting. Renee immediately rejected the idea without hesitation. He was taken aback by her reaction, trying to understand what made her so uninterested. He recalled her backstory, confused. Someone who never left home now walked confidently through crowded streets. They arrived at the academy. Its towering structure radiated prestige, catching Adele's attention immediately. Adele stared up, impressed. This was Saitan Academy, the place where everything would finally begin. At the registration table, a staff member rushed them through, giving instructions with a bored tone. Adele stepped up, explaining he was here to register. The clerk eyed him with suspicion. The clerk loudly reacted, shocked a half-demon dared to apply. His voice drew everyone's attention instantly. Adele sighed as frustration built. The Academy's chaos already made him question everything about this decision. The administrator slammed the table, veins bulging. His rage blamed powerless applicants for the nation's downfall. Renee entered the hall, her horns unmistakable. Silence spread as everyone turned, eyes locked on her. The administrator froze mid-breath. Recognition flickered. A child of house sins. This intake was unprecedented and serious. Renee's voice was firm, unwavering. If you're an applicant, state your house and your identity. Calmly, she declared, House bears, Renee. This is my guard. He'll be admitted alongside me. The examiner sneered, mocking her status. A half-demon and a Satan, both daring to apply? Renee's voice cut the air cold, commanding, I said enough. Her power shimmered, forcing silence instantly. The examiner panicked, backtracking. He muttered excuses, then stiffly asked for her companion's name and house. Arsen Adel answered calmly, House Pixie Adel. The registration completed. The examiner warned them about the entrance exam. Renee walked away, anger restrained. Arsen Adel noted the prejudice, then suggested they find lodging before sunset. Renee and Arsen Adel stopped outside a modest building. He nodded and said, This looks clean enough. Renee frowned at the old structure. These taverns are too old. He replied, We lack money. Arsen Adel calculated quickly. 10 gold won't last long. We can barely survive a month on it. He sighed. House Bears is poor now, post-war. I couldn't ask for more help. Renee remained silent. Arsen Adel pushed the door. It creaked open. A voice inside welcomed them quietly. Arsen Adel asked the innkeeper if there was a room for 2 people for 2 days. The innkeeper confirmed, but added they'd share 1 room. Renee's expression stiffened, cheeks turning slightly pink. She quickly responded, No, please give us separate rooms. Arsen Adel glanced over but said nothing. The innkeeper agreed. 2 rooms, 2 days, meals included. That'll be 2 gold. Rooms are upstairs. Renee nodded, calculating the cost in her mind. Without hesitation, she turned and climbed the stairs. Arsen Adel smiled politely. I'll bring the luggage up soon. Please rest well, Lady Renee. Renee paused briefly at the stairs, then replied softly without turning. Okay, you too. Arsen Adel watched her leave. He figured she wasn't used to small inns after living in mansions. He stayed downstairs thinking she'd eventually adjust. Time to rest up for 2 days, too. As night settled, the quiet town rested under fading sunlight. Their break had finally begun. A guard stood tall by the gate. Applicants, please head inside and follow the instructions. Arsen Adel scanned the crowd. He thought, there must be at least 100 people here. He frowned. So many applicants showing up by default. I need to hide my identity carefully. A voice echoed overhead. From this point onward, present your ID and board in order. The crowd moved forward. Arsen Adel blinked in surprise as a massive boarding device hissed to life. Arsen Adel stared in surprise. A train. I didn't expect that, he muttered, stepping toward the platform. They boarded swiftly. Rumors said maze-like gates blocked intruders. The train was the only safe route. He was stunned. That huge fortress outside was just part of it. How big is Saitan? A voice came through the speaker. We will be arriving at Saitan shortly. Brace for impact. The train shook. Renee grabbed her seat tightly. Arsen Adel blinked, startled by the sudden lurch forward. The train came to a stop. Renee and Arsen Adel stepped out. They'd finally reached Saitan. Steam hissed from the engine. Applicants gathered their things, preparing to leave the transport behind. A voice instructed, "Applicants, follow the guide and enter the auditorium where the exam will be held." Renee and Arsen Adel followed the crowd, staying alert. The hallway echoed with steady footsteps and tension. The great auditorium doors opened wide. Dozens of applicants marched inside, facing the challenge ahead together. Arsen Adel entered the vast hall. He looked around thinking, "Wow, it's huge. A bit overwhelming." As his eyes adjusted, he noticed, most of them are young demons, probably from noble houses. He spotted armored figures. Those people aren't students. Judging by their clothes, they must be instructors. Arsen Adel thought quietly, maybe if I impress them early, my life here might become easier. A woman's voice broke the silence. "Time's up." The hall hushed. Everyone turned to face forward. The great doors slammed shut behind the last student. The sound echoed through the massive hall. Arsen Adel noticed the room dimmed unnaturally. He looked around, confused by the sudden change in lighting. It was clearly daytime before. Is this some kind of magical effect? He thought to himself. Whispers filled the hall. Arsen Adel's mind raced, wondering, what kind of exam will it be? A booming voice commanded, "Silence!" All eyes turned forward. A figure appeared above the gathered crowd. A fierce woman appeared, her gaze sharp and commanding. The entire hall fell into silence instantly. "Welcome to Saitan," she declared coldly. "You bunch of brainless, empty fools," she added without hesitation. She sneered. "Let's see. So many of you are eager to die this year, huh?" Arsen Adel stayed quiet. "I can't believe she's the welcoming instructor. These people are completely insane." Her aura exploded. "Enough small talk," she roared. "Let's begin the entrance exam immediately." Chaos followed fast. Chaos erupted. A student stumbled and shouted, "Kuh, Lady Renee!" Another yelled, "Focus on the exam!" Waves of pressure battered the students. Arsen Adel gritted his teeth, barely staying upright under the mental assault. Two instructors stood watching. One scoffed silently, unimpressed by the panic spreading among the applicants below. "Headmaster has twisted taste," one muttered. "No matter how talented, mental weakness makes strength useless here." The examiner grinned. "This test, the mental endurance test, checks if you can endure torture and silence," an instructor observed calmly. "It's been 5 minutes and almost no one is left standing." He called off the pressure. "That's enough for now," as a few students still remained conscious. Another instructor sighed. "Only 8 are left. I had higher expectations with this many applicants." The blue-haired man replied, "About 40% lasted more than 5 minutes. That's better than last time." He glanced at the survivors. "They say this batch includes heirs of the 7 deadly sins house." One instructor nodded. "Now that you mention it, that's true." He glanced across the chamber again. He paused. "But wait, who is that kid? He's not one of the 7 sins heirs." They watched Arsen Adel, still standing. "Right. He's lasted almost 10 minutes without showing signs of mental collapse." The other man muttered, "He won't last much longer, though." Nearby, another student finally dropped groaning. The instructor's eyes narrowed sharply. "Wait, something feels—" He sensed an unexpected shift in the atmosphere. A sudden shift occurred. A dark voice echoed in Arsen Adel's mind, whispering just one word, "Off." A terrifying aura burst from him, swirling red energy flooding the space with violent, uncontrollable force. The instructors jolted. Eyes widened. One gasped, recognizing the dangerous, unnatural pressure radiating from Arsen Adel's body. A voice rang out in panic. "That's dangerous!" The red aura twisted into monstrous, chaotic patterns. One instructor drew his blade. "We must kill him here!" he shouted, charging toward Arsen Adel's location. Arsen Adel walked into the arena quietly. Nobody noticed anything special about the calm boy with purple hair. Then something shifted. The very air trembled. A cold wave surged. His presence changed without warning. The instructor froze. No emotions. Just killing intent, quiet and precise, like stepping on a crawling insect. It wasn't wild instinct. It was refined, deliberate malice, the kind born from true monsters and murderers. All eyes locked on him. Instructors tensed. One girl turned, sensing something awaken behind his hollow gaze. The swordsman watched as blue energy swirled around the boy. His instincts screamed something wasn't normal. His grip tightened on the sword. "Why am I nervous against a new applicant?" he muttered uneasily. Across the arena, the silver-haired instructor remained still, silently observing the clash with unreadable eyes and posture. The pressure mounted. One student dropped, struggling to breathe. The red-haired man fell to his knees, trembling. His thoughts blurred. "I'm cracking," he realized. "I need to hold on. I need to survive this." Adel wondered if his killing intent could break through the overwhelming pressure pressing down on him. It was risky, but he had no better option. He summoned everything and released his aura. The pain struck instantly. His muscles trembled, veins bulging. He screamed as the force ripped through him. The girl watched calmly. "Impressive endurance," she murmured. "Should I raise the pressure just a little more?" Eyes wide and grin twisted, he clung to consciousness. "Almost there. Just a bit more now." A surge of force erupted around him. Red and blue energies clashed violently in midair. The girl's expression shifted. She hadn't expected him to endure, let alone fight back with control. Panting heavily, he stayed standing. Sweat dripped down, but his mind finally cleared from the chaos. Relief washed over him. "It worked," he said aloud. "Now I can finally think again." He glanced around, suddenly alert. "Wait, where's Renee?" he muttered, scanning the room with a worried gaze. He spotted Renee standing firm inside the field. As expected, she was still holding on. The announcer noted that the heirs of the 7 deadly sins were also enduring the pressure. Saitan, heir of envy, stood silently. His glowing eyes scanned the room, ready for anything. Samuel, heir of gluttony, remained composed. His breath steady, his expression focused despite the suffocating atmosphere. Aaron and Guar stood side by side. One looked half asleep, the other brimming with silent strength. Some characters in the story were written with care, yet all were destined for tragedy. The boy recalled, 6 of them would die by the protagonist's party. Renee was one. His eyes widened. Among them, he spotted her long, white hair flowing under the arena lights. Recognition hit hard. There was no mistaking her. The girl with blood-red eyes and determination. He froze. Brown crown of thorns, red eyes. Her death was written. But could he change it? He stared in disbelief. That girl wasn't just powerful, she was the demon realm's future greatest villain. Her name was Diana, heir of wrath, the one prophesied to become the next demon lord. A loud signal ended the trial. Everyone began to relax as the magical pressure slowly faded. He recalled tradition demon kings were always from wrath. So why was she here as an applicant? Confused, he glanced her way. Did something change in the story? Did I miss an event? He stared at the results, stunned. I failed? How's that possible? His voice echoed in disbelief. Others shouted in anger. What kind of exam is this? One boy stepped forward, face red. He shoved a guard away. Don't touch me. My father's important. Bring the headmaster now. A hand grabbed him fast. A deep voice snapped. I don't care who your father is. The boy collapsed to the floor, groaning in pain. Don't make me repeat myself, the man warned. The instructor shouted, Anyone who couldn't last 5 minutes has no place in this academy. The gates closed behind the failures. Their hopes ended before the real trials had even begun. He exhaled deeply. I passed. Barely, he muttered, still shaken by what he had just endured. He glanced up. Wait, isn't that girl the headmaster? He recognized her from the story's original draft. Her name was Lucian Saitan's headmaster. Cute on the surface, but feared across the entire demonic realm. Adele passed the first exam, but knew staying careful was key. Failure could happen at any moment. Only a few would survive the second round. Nearby, someone called out, You must be Renee! He glanced over. Renee stood calmly among a crowd of students trying to start conversations with her. She's popular, he noted. Makes sense she's an heir and resisted the headmaster's terrifying aura, too. Still, a strange thought crossed his mind. Why is no one noticing me? Did I disappear? A student approached and said, You passed too, Adel. He nodded calmly. Yes, I passed. He thought to himself, At least I stood out enough to not seem completely ordinary. A sudden shout cut through the noise. Attention! The instructor's voice instantly silenced the entire group. The man introduced himself. I am Ares, your instructor from now on. Learn everything I teach. Adele whispered, He looks like the kind of guy who keeps a knife hidden on him. Ares addressed the group. Congratulations. You passed the first exam testing your mental strength under pressure. He explained, It was designed to see who could stay sane during human torture simulations. 8 of you lasted until the end. You'll receive bonus points for your resilience, another instructor added. Maintain that performance in the next exam, and you'll earn access to the academy's weaponry. Adele smiled slightly. So that's the reward. No wonder I feel everyone's envy on my back. The instructor stood firm, announcing the beginning of the second exam with authority and focused intensity. He declared the trial would test each student's true strength abilities meant to overwhelm and subdue humans. With a stern gaze, he warned their class ranking would change depending on their performance today. The students exchanged glances, confused and curious about the type of human they would soon confront. Suddenly, the instructor slammed a case open, revealing the deadly opponent for their second exam challenge. With a sharp snap of his fingers, the instructor unleashed a surge of glowing, concentrated energy. A massive burst erupted outward, blasting wind and energy across the arena with violent, unrelenting force. From the light emerged a towering figure, armored in shadows, its presence commanding absolute fear and silence. Its jagged blade sliced the air, humming with power, each movement controlled and precise like a machine. A student gasped in shock, recognizing the summoned creature something far beyond a typical human for testing. Everyone froze as the figure stepped forward. Isekai, the strongest hero of the 6 great families. The atmosphere trembled as a dark figure emerged, eyes glowing with fury, cloaked in ethereal blue flames. Adele froze mid-step, baffled. Why's that human here? He muttered. It defied all logic. Beside him, the girl asked quietly, Do you know him? Adele nodded slowly, tension stiffening his frame. That's Isekai, Adele whispered. He's not just anyone. He's the head of House Ninai. Adele swallowed hard. He's tied to the original protagonist. His destiny's been bound since the beginning. Adele's voice trembled. That's the protagonist's father, he said, watching the man radiate overwhelming combat energy. Isekai, the sword saint, stood firm. He reached supreme power using talent alone, not ancient artifacts. Whispers spread. Isn't that the sword saint? Others murmured, dread settling over the unprepared student challengers. Adele explained calmly. He defeated countless demon nobles. No surprise he's well known even beyond this academy. A knight smirked. Don't worry, he's limited to 10%. Any more, none of you would survive. Isn't 10% too easy? A student asked. Adele shook his head without hesitation. Not really. Even at 10%, he's deadly. One swing could wipe out half a city, Adele replied calmly. He stared ahead, thinking. If they're using him for a test, the passing bar must be high. Adele sighed. Can't afford the info scroll. Too expensive, and we have limited questions anyway. The instructor announced, You'll fight in teams. Top 8 get separate trials, the rest random placements. Adele groaned. Renee remained silent, ignoring the attention. Nearby students whispered and chuckled, casting glances her way. Adele noticed the familiar judgmental stares. Those stares again. I'm used to them by now, he muttered. He frowned, thinking, Are they saying I got lucky while everyone else got stuck with weaklings? Renee turned to him quietly. Get a pass and come back safe, she said without expression. Adele smiled gently. Yes, I wish you success as well, Miss Renee, he answered with sincerity. The instructor's voice echoed across the hall. Now I will call out the names. Group 3 leader, Adel. Team members, Kina, Chris, Sanchez. Adel stepped forward as the names were announced. He stood still, puzzled. I don't recognize those names, he thought, scanning the unfamiliar list carefully. Were they just extras? Characters with no real weight or purpose in the original story's plot? Turning around, Adel faced his assigned teammates for the first time, unsure what to expect from them. Adel smiled politely. I'm Adel. Nice to meet you, he said, addressing the new group. Hi, I'm Chris. This is Kina, the silver-haired boy said cheerfully. Kina waved with a small smile. The last member, Sanchez, sneered. His expression said everything. He wasn't thrilled about the arrangement. A half-demon as team leader? What a disgrace to my house, Sanchez said with scornful contempt. Adel exhaled sharply. Even nobodies are looking down on me. Does he think he's a Seven's heir? Well, let's do our best anyway, Adel said. The group responded with a unified, confident cheer. Let's start with you, Chris, Adel continued. Please share your weapon type or combat ability with us. Chris raised his hand. My ability is mana transformation. I can turn this prism into gear. Glowing shards floated around him. It's not strong, but I can make armor or a sword. Adel smiled. That's not bad at all. He passes. All right then, next, Kina. Kina stepped forward calmly. I'm not really suited for combat. I'm more of a support type. A buff type? Adel asked. Kina nodded. Yes, I pray to the demon god to boost my allies, she chanted, glowing brightly. Flames and divine script circled her hands as power surged toward Adel's body. Oh! Adel paused, feeling oddly weightless. Kina panted. Wasn't that something? You felt faster, right? Yeah, I think so. He smiled faintly. Kina pouted. You're so mean. The tension eased between them. Adel laughed nervously. Ha, I was joking. Don't be upset, he said to calm Kina. He sighed inwardly. Still, I couldn't even feel the buff. How did she pass the test? Turning to the last member, he called out, Now, lastly, Sanchez. The mood shifted immediately. Sanchez crossed his arms, then growled, My ability is... before dashing forward with sudden speed and power. This, he shouted, striking the ground with explosive force that cracked the floor beneath his feet. Adel observed quietly. Oh, a hardening ability, huh? He thought. Perfect role for a tank. Sanchez turned sharply, pointing at him. Now it's your turn, he barked with a competitive glare. Adel flicked a small metallic ring onto the floor. A faint pulse of energy followed immediately. In a flash, Adel vanished and reappeared beside Sanchez, hand glowing and aimed at his neck. Sanchez froze, stunned. His hardened skin trembled and his expression turned from smug to shaken. Teleportation, Adel said calmly, standing behind Sanchez. The sudden shift stunned everyone, especially his overconfident teammate. That's my ability, Adel added with a smirk as Sanchez stumbled forward, struggling to regain his pride. Whoa, awesome! Teleportation, Kina said. Chris grinned. That's a really good ability. Adel chuckled. Thanks for the compliment. His expression turned serious. Still, who knows what variables may come up. I'll keep some secrets. Our formation is simple, Adel explained. Chris and Sanchez defend. I'm center. Kina gives rear support. Everyone okay with that? Adel asked. Kina and Chris agreed while Sanchez responded with a quiet, The instructor's voice boomed. We'll now begin the second test. Each group, prepare yourselves. Adel exhaled slowly. It's finally starting, he muttered, his expression firm as Group 1 stepped forward to face their trial. Adel watched the group march ahead. Even against the Sword Saint, they're showing real determination. The Sword Saint appeared on the field, his blade glowing faintly, stance calm but deadly precise. In an instant, the Sword Saint moved. His blade swept cleanly through Group 1's defense formation. Adel flinched. Even Sanchez was stunned silent, unable to track the Sword Saint's terrifying speed. Screams followed. Group 1 was sent flying, overwhelmed by pressure they never had a chance to resist. Adel's thoughts raced. I couldn't even see him move. And that's just 10% of his power? The proctor barked loud and clear. Next, Group 2! All eyes turned forward with heavy, silent dread. Group 2 was obliterated instantly. Screams echoed as their bodies collapsed, scorched by magical backlash. Next, Group 3! The proctor called. Adele's team watched, eyes wide, the weight of pressure increasing. Kina clutched her chest. Ugh! Fear crept in despite her best efforts to stay calm. Group 4, step forward! The proctor commanded. 2 students froze, voices shaking. No way! We'll lose anyway! The proctor stared at them in silence. His expression darkened, patience clearly wearing thin with hesitation. All right, you 2 may skip the test. Will the remaining 2 proceed? The proctor asked firmly. The remaining students nodded. Yes, we'll give it a shot, they said. Adele looked surprised, quietly observing. They're actually going ahead with it? I see. Maybe the qualification to pass isn't winning but trying. The students complained loudly, confused why some were exempt from the trial. Fairness clearly wasn't guaranteed. With the instructor's signal, Group 4 stepped into the ring. Tension rose in the echoing hall. Arsen Adel stood alone, unfazed. His opponents hesitated, unsure why they felt nervous despite their superior numbers. Suddenly, a blinding surge of energy exploded from Arsen Adel, launching both attackers through the glowing barrier. The spectators gasped. If he used real smoke aura, they'd be dead. His power wasn't ordinary. The crowd murmured in fear. One student whispered, "Can we really defeat such a monster today?" Another scoffed, trying to act brave. "He's just a human," he said, though his voice trembled slightly. Arsen Adel smirked faintly. "I can hear his legs shaking from here," he muttered, arms still calmly folded. The next group stepped in. Blue energy clashed violently, bodies thrown back before even landing a single strike. When Group 10 was called, they stood silent. One stepped forward, bowed quickly, and declared, "We'll forfeit." As Group 20 entered, tension grew. Whispers spread each team had fallen. None lasted long inside. By the time Group 30 stepped up, 5 teams had surrendered, unable to even graze the opponent. Fighting a master without limits and with permission to flee, yet no team dared challenge him to the end. Suddenly, a student blocked the Sword Saint's blow. Gasps erupted. For once, the attack didn't land clean. Observers leaned in. They're lasting longer. New applicants were showing sharper reflexes than any who came before. Arsen Adel watched calmly. I see. So that's the true condition for passing this brutal second test. His teammates stood nervously. One trembled, saying, "I'm shaking." The next round would surely involve them soon. Arsen Adel turned to them. "I figured it out," he said. "I know how to pass. You must fight back no matter how strong they are. Losing isn't failure. Giving up is. See how the instructors treat quitters? And how the Sword Saint spares those who resist. It's clear." The instructor called out firmly, "Next, Group 33." All eyes shifted toward Arsen Adel's waiting team. Arsen Adel stepped forward, eyes clear. "Let's defeat the Sword Saint. Together we can pull it off." Surprised at first, his teammates slowly nodded. "Yeah, let's try. Losing isn't failure if we fight." Arsen Adel's resolve deepened. "Who cares if I'm half demon? With Adele's gift, I know I'll win. Now let's begin!" With a yell, the group charged forward, energy flaring as the final test began. The Sword Saint observed silently. Arsen Adel admitted he lacked details on Sei, making this unpredictable territory. He clenched his fists, thinking hard. What should I do here? I barely outlined this character. Still, he rallied the team. Don't panic. Just stay sharp and fight from your assigned spots. All right, one shouted. I know that much. The group braced, ready as energy surged ahead. Blue light tore forward, Sei charged. Arsen Adel's eyes widened. He shouted fast, He's coming! Prepare yourselves! Sei lunged forward, blade glowing with fierce aura. His swing was precise, too fast for normal eyes. Chris saw it coming too late. Panic filled his face as the energy wave closed in. Another teammate jumped in. Kuna, protect Chris! He shouted, intercepting the strike before it reached him. Kuna yelled back, Leave it to me! Bracing herself, she aimed to soften Chris's hard landing. Sanchez! Someone called. He dashed forward, replying quickly, I know! With tension rising in his voice. Say's blade surged again. Sanchez barely deflected it, holding firm as sparks lit up the air. Ugh! Sanchez grunted under pressure, then shifted his stance and countered. The others shouted, Nice! He blocked it! Arsen Adel watched closely. I saw a gap right before Say's second slash. His motion paused slightly. But, he frowned, scanning the stance. It's too obvious of a gap. Something feels completely wrong here. Say stood ready, blade low. Arsen Adel's instincts screamed danger. My gut says don't go in now. Arsen Adel's eyes narrowed. Could he be baiting us? That stance, is he hiding something deeper? Does he have an AI or something? He muttered, watching closely. Everyone, to your positions now! Chris blocked again, struggling. Shit! He yelled, as the Sword Saint's strike shattered his defensive shield. Chris is breaking down! Sanchez's arms are trembling! Arsen Adel thought quickly. One hit caused all this? This isn't good! Arsen Adel shouted. Just hold on a little longer. We need more time! The Sword Saint raised his blade again. His movements grew sharper, energy pulsing with even greater force. Arsen Adel clenched his teeth. Again, he muttered. The same pattern, the same overwhelming pressure, striking harder. A massive impact followed. The wave exploded outward, cracking the floor as teammates struggled to withstand it. Sanchez screamed in pain, his body cut and bruised. It's stronger now, he shouted, barely standing. Move, or we're dead, another yelled. Just hold on, buy time! Desperation filled every movement they made. Arsen Adel screamed in frustration. You crazy fuck! The Sword Saint showed no mercy, just relentless, focused intent. They had done the impossible, blocking his second attack. Arsen Adel's thoughts raced. Will he escalate again? The Sword Saint calmly shifted stances. Energy flared brighter. He was preparing for a third, deadlier strike. Arsen Adel's eyes widened. Chris! He shouted, seeing his teammate drop to the ground, motionless from exhaustion. Chris groaned weakly. He couldn't fight anymore. Arsen Adel ran toward him, panic and urgency in his steps. Chris groaned again. Ah! His body ached. Arsen Adel kneeled beside him. Are you okay, Chris? I know it's hard, Arsen Adel said quietly. But trust me one more time, just once more. One teammate shouted, What are you doing, Adel? He's preparing another strike. We're running out of time. Arsen Adel looked calm. You have a plan, right? Chris asked. He answered without hesitation. Yes, I do. I'll drive a sword into his throat for sure, Arsen Adel said, his eyes burning with resolve. Chris gasped, barely catching his breath. His teammate held him back, keeping him from collapsing completely. The Sword Saint's aura flared again. A whirlwind of energy spiraled from his blade toward them. He's coming! A teammate shouted. Everyone scrambled to react as the energy wave closed in fast. Arsen Adel turned to Sanchez. You'll have to survive this time without Chris's barrier. You ready? Sanchez shouted. What? What the hell do you mean? But the third slash had already begun. Sanchez roared, charging headfirst into the devastating attack. He poured everything into holding back the storm. A flash of light triggered. Arsen Adel activated position transfer 2, yelling, Move! And vanished from view. He reappeared mid-air behind the shockwave, body twisting sharply as he redirected his fall towards Say. The spell triggered again. Position transfer 2. Designate. Arsen Adel locked his eyes on his true final target. Say turned too late. A violent crimson glow erupted as Arsen Adel's blade pierced through the chaos. From above, Arsen Adel's blade shimmered mid-air. He descended fast, targeting Say's exposed back with precision. Say sensed something too late. His head turned, eyes widening as blue light surrounded his defenses. Arsen Adel's eyes glowed. Die, Nine Say, he whispered coldly, striking down with every ounce of control. Arsen Adel lunged forward with fierce momentum, channeling raw power into his punch, aimed straight at the enemy's core. Spectators froze, stunned by Arsen Adel's sudden move. The purple-haired man's smirk faded into stunned silence. Beside him, the horned girl's eyes widened. She whispered, Is that really Arsen Adel's true power? A crimson burst exploded from Arsen Adel's fist, crackling energy spiraling outward like a storm breaking through darkness. With one final surge, he drove the blow into his foe's chest, shattering spells and ending resistance. Arsen Adel coughed blood onto the floor, pain surging through his chest as the impact left him reeling. Gritting his teeth, he growled, "This bastard!" He struggled to stand, desperate to endure just one more attack. With clenched fists, he activated his hidden power trait. Darkness as shadows spiraled violently around his damaged frame. Dark energy exploded outward. Arsen Adel's figure twisted with force, trying to shift positions, but something disrupted the spell. Though teleportation failed, Arsen Adel smirked. "The trap is set. His movement sealed. I only need one chance." Within the pitch-black space, not a trace of light remained. Visibility was completely stripped away. The intruder narrowed his eyes. "Even I can't see anything in here," he muttered, slightly tense, but confidence returned. "With the fang of darkness in hand, I hold the advantage in this place." Clenching his weapon, he declared, "In this space, it's unmatched. I'll defeat him using everything I've got." Just then, a dark figure emerged silently behind him. Unnoticed, his enemy was already in position to strike. The monster lunged from the shadows, exuding raw power. His presence alone twisted the air around them. Staring wide-eyed, the man muttered under his breath, "This guy's a total monster, far beyond expectation." With no time to dodge, he raised his arms, bracing for the overwhelming blow heading toward him. But from behind, Arsen Adel emerged silently, his crimson eye glowing fiercely, ready to strike with deadly precision. A curved blade manifested in his grasp, humming with dark power, its edge aimed for the enemy's heart. The monster shrieked in rage as black energy swirled, realizing too late he had been cornered. Arsen Adel raised his hand calmly, eyes locked on the target. "This time, you're the one trapped." With focus, he activated the technique. Shadows twisted as phantom blades formed in the air above. His fist clenched tightly. The skill's name echoed silently. Fang of Darkness. Black Blade Rain, his ultimate attack. Dozens of dark blades rained down violently, piercing the monster from every side, sealing his movement completely. Outside the black vortex, students watched in silence, unsure what kind of battle raged inside it. One of them stepped forward anxiously. "What the hell is going on in there?" he asked. The purple-haired instructor remained calm, eyes sharp. "Looks like it's almost over," he answered without looking away. Suddenly, a gust of dark wind surged outward. A single footstep echoed from within the vortex. Arsen Adel emerged, calm and steady, dark energy trailing behind him, his presence heavier than when he first entered. Arsen Adel stepped forward, dragging the defeated enemy behind him. The vortex faded, leaving only silence behind. The crowd watched breathlessly before one student finally spoke, his voice filled with awe and disbelief. As the enemy's body dropped, cheers erupted from the balconies, echoing through the chamber like thunder. Standing tall, Arsen Adel absorbed the moment. This silence. "I did it," he thought, clenching his fist proudly. From above, a red-haired student smirked. "That was fun," he said, already eager for the next battle. "Adel!" they shouted, rushing across the hall, relief and excitement visible in their hurried footsteps. "That was seriously amazing! How did you manage to do it?" one friend asked, beaming proudly. Adel smiled. "It's thanks to everyone working so well together," he replied, his voice calm and sincere. "What about Sanchez?" she asked. "He was in shock." "The instructors are already helping him recover," he answered. Nodding once, Adel turned back toward the battlefield. "Then, shall we finish this?" he said with finality. "Finish it?" his friend asked, confused. "Isn't it already over?" The group watched Adel in silence. Without answering, Adel stepped forward suddenly. His expression darkened, determination sharpening his features. What are you doing?" the silver-haired boy shouted, startled by Adel's sudden approach to the fallen enemy. Adel stopped beside the body. "Well," he said calmly, "don't we need to make sure he's really dead?" From the sidelines, the instructor said nothing. His gaze narrowed, studying Adel's actions without a hint of protest. She chuckled softly, amused by the outcome. Her expression didn't hide the arrogance in her voice. "For a half-blood, you're not half bad," she said, legs crossed as others listened with silent approval. Her tone sharpened. Still, compared to Fron, he's nothing special, she added, dismissive and cold. He was born inferior. His true nature will show through no matter what, she stated without hesitation. Watching from above, she smirked again. So stupid and vulgar, pretending he belongs with the strong. Blue energy surged as the girl approached, her presence commanding immediate attention from everyone in the hall. What the hell? Who's that? One student muttered, eyes wide as he noticed her dark aura. Those horns. Is that Barris? Someone whispered. The girl's gaze cut sharply toward her stunned opponent. The tension thickened. Why is she looking at me like that? The other girl thought, feeling cornered. As expected of the 7 deadly sins Heir. They're already in a battle of intimidation, someone murmured. Obviously Fron! Someone shouted. The other girl wouldn't last a second! Others laughed, mocking without restraint. I mean, maybe she's not that weak, one boy mumbled nervously as tension swept through the air. Across the courtyard, Adel stretched his arms lazily, unaware of the growing hostility in the distance. He paused, sensing something. Wait, isn't that Renee? Why is she radiating bloodlust? He whispered to himself. A deep voice interrupted his thoughts. Pixie Adel, the instructor said, eyes narrowing as he stepped forward. Yes? What is it? Adel asked calmly, noticing the instructor's unusual seriousness as he approached. The instructor frowned. Are you really asking because you don't know? He said, voice low but firm. Adel blinked, slightly confused by the intensity. Yes, I am, he replied honestly, tilting his head. I'll be watching you from now on, the instructor stated, turning away without another word. Adel sighed. What? I thought I was getting a compliment. Looks like I'll watch Renee instead. Sparks flared as Renee and her opponent faced off, power radiating fiercely between them without backing down. Wow, they're still at it, huh? Adel muttered, watching the standoff from the crowd with curiosity. His eyes narrowed. And that girl across from her, who is she? He asked, trying to recall. Blue eyes, long hair, a single thin horn. She's from the House of Lust Laurel Fron. Adel frowned. Why is she trying to fight Renee? I barely know anything about demon world politics. Laurel's power surged with flair as she turned suddenly, locking eyes with someone unexpected in the crowd. Adel froze as her gaze fell on him. Others nearby stepped back, sensing rising tension. Hey! Half-blood! Laurel shouted, her voice cutting through the room and drawing everyone's attention to Adel. He blinked, confused. Huh? Why is she calling me suddenly? His mind raced for any explanation. With a confident smirk, Laurel raised her hand. Become my slave! She declared, shocking the entire hall. Renee's eyes glowed with power as she stepped forward, her silence broken by someone shouting her name. With a cry, she launched toward Laurel, sword raised high, intent clear in every step she took. Arsen Adel lunged forward, blade cloaked in spectral blue flame, catching the demon girl off guard completely. Her eyes widened in fury and disbelief. Are you crazy? She screamed, power flaring from her horns. Suddenly, a booming voice interrupted, echoing through the chamber. The instructor stepped in, face dark with authority. Unnecessary quarrels in Satan are forbidden, he declared, crossing his arms, daring them to continue their fight. The demon girl glared, blade still raised. Then we'll finish this outside, she growled through gritted teeth. Relief washed over the red-haired student as Ares intervened, preventing a disastrous clash before the ceremony. He sighed, thinking how lucky they were no conflict broke out among the 7 deadly sins. One girl scoffed, mocking her opponent's pride. She's really messed up in the head, she muttered loudly. The red-haired student stepped forward, polite but cautious. Are you all right, miss? He asked, watching her expression closely. She blinked, still quiet. He continued, Your group is up next, so you should, but paused mid-sentence. He winced, rubbing his neck. The earlier clash left a mark, but he said nothing about it. She stepped closer without hesitation and simply said, Good job. Her voice was calm, her gaze unwavering. A student nearby gasped loudly. What? Are you two dating? And she's a half-demon? He blurted out. The red-haired boy smiled faintly. Thank you, he said. Things were changing after finally proving his worth. She stared straight at him. You hid your strength, didn't you? She asked. To look weaker. Group 3-4, step right up, a voice called. He blinked, startled, as she walked away. I need to go, she said softly. I won't tell anyone. He stood silently, watching her leave. He sighed, thinking, I used all my strength to pass. Did I really look that weak? Glancing around nervously, he muttered, I guess she thinks I'm a priest of the family or something. You! State your name, barked the examiner. Me? He asked. Yes, you, he replied. My name is Adele. Adele, huh? She repeated with a smirk. Not a bad name. He stayed silent, unsure why. Why'd you call me over? He asked. Her aura shifted. You interrupted me earlier, she answered coldly. With dark energy swirling, she declared, Leave that bare-skinned weakling. Serve me and gain true power. Now bear witness to my irresistible appeal, she said, rising with force. Her magic pulsed, demanding attention. Adele raised a hand. Sorry, but my mission's turn is next, she froze. What? That's not normal? Adele stood in silence, eyes fixed on Renee. Will I finally see her full power today? She scoffed. Are you ignoring me? But Adele didn't flinch, his focus entirely on the battlefield ahead. Renee stepped forward, calm and confident. Just how strong is she? He wondered, feeling pressure build. A vortex of magic erupted as Renee faced her opponent. Energy surged violently, warping the space around. What an intense standoff, Adele whispered. She's even more incredible than I thought, he admitted, slightly smiling. Renee stood firm as her energy surged. The crowd watched, unsure whether to be impressed or afraid. Her calm expression confused them. She looked unfazed, even as the magic pressure grew around the arena. Ha 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 ha, she's pretty funny too, one student laughed, trying to hide the nervous shake in his voice. Adele's eyes widened. She's just walking up to the Sword Saint? What is she thinking? Renee met the Sword Saint's gaze. Neither flinched. Their auras clashed in silence, building toward an inevitable conflict. The Sword Saint's eyes glowed coldly. He wasn't underestimating her, he was preparing to respond seriously. Renee's gaze burned back, fierce and sharp. Her aura expanded, meeting his power without showing fear. The silence broke as they stepped forward. Their stances spoke louder than words, tension thick in the air. Renee's power surged. Her body glowed with controlled rage, eyes locked onto her opponent's unwavering expression. The moment intensified. Their energy flared wildly, neither willing to be the first to back down. The Sword Saint struck first. Renee deflected cleanly, her blade shimmering as it danced through his attack. Gasps echoed through the arena. Adele stared wide-eyed, unable to believe what he was witnessing from Renee. She landed, calm and composed. Her blade lowered slowly, while footsteps behind her broke the silence. The crowd erupted. Cheers and disbelief mixed in the air. Students stood, stunned by what they just saw. The instructor crossed his arms and grinned. Not bad. The crowd shouted her name. Renee! Renee! No way. Did I see that right? Adele whispered. She won that easily? His voice trailed off. He realized it then Cell had already sensed Renee's strength. That's why he didn't ridicule or engage. Unfortunate, Cell said calmly. But she must be crushed if she dares think she can challenge me. So you're saying if all the 7 deadly sins children united, they could beat the Sword Saint? Cell shook his head. None can defeat him now. Maybe, if the previous Demon King still lived. Adele muttered. Anyone mocking Miss Renee right now has no idea that wasn't the Sword Saint's full power. So I had trouble against someone who wasn't even a tenth of the real deal, he thought. I may have created this world, but I know nothing about the true depths of the demonic realm. He smiled faintly. But this anticipation is beating in my heart. Let's watch and see how it goes. The next group entered. Only the 7 deadly sins remain, but others have defeated the Sword Saint too. It was so one-sided, The gap in power among the 7 deadly sins became clear immediately. I already know who the 2 strongest are, Adele thought, watching silently as the exams concluded. This concludes the entrance exam, the instructor announced. Everyone gather in front of the podium immediately. Those who quit failed, he continued, but those who passed are now official members and trainees of Satan. Don't get excited, he shouted. The road ahead is cruel. Some of you will want to quit. To those who passed, gather again in 2 days for the official entrance ceremony, the instructor declared. As for the 8 who defeated the Sword Saint, remain where you are, he added firmly. Adele looked to Renee. Why does he want us to stay? He asked quietly, puzzled. Maybe he's reminding us of that reward he mentioned earlier, Renee replied, watching the instructor closely. You've all passed with flying colors, the instructor said. Now you've earned the right to enter the anarchy. Can we exit with tons of weapons? Saitan weapons sound super useful, Balian asked, eyes gleaming. As expected of Lycian Balian, the son of envy, Adele thought. His curiosity never runs out. He had a decent screen time in my novel, Adele mused, watching the boy with interest. No. Wielding multiple weapons limits control, the instructor replied. Only one will be permitted for each of you. We're short on time. No more questions. Follow me. I'll take you to the armory now. As the instructor pressed his hand forward, magic symbols lit up and activated the massive sealed doorway. The glowing doors of the armory slowly opened. The group stood frozen, stunned by what they saw. This is Saitan's gift. Your next move decides everything, best or worst. It's your responsibility alone. Arsen Adel stared at the ominous door, unsure if this truly was the Academy's weapon selection chamber. The instructor stepped forward, explaining students must enter individually, and they'd be inspected thoroughly after exiting the room. Realizing he'd be last to enter, Arsen Adel frowned. The system felt arbitrary, almost rigged for disorder. Excited students rushed ahead, one boasting loudly about picking the best item before Arsen Adel could even respond. Another student calmly chose an artifact. Arsen Adel nodded slowly, deciding to choose the same something strategic, not flashy. Arsen Adel grew anxious, realizing others might take all the good artifacts before his turn even came. The instructor called out, signaling the next student. Arsen Adel's nerves tightened as the heavy doors opened again. One student emerged beaming, boasting loudly about his flashy artifact. Arsen Adel watched silently, his thoughts conflicted and uncertain. Observing more students proudly showing artifacts, Arsen Adel hesitated should he pick one too, or choose protective armor instead. A calm voice broke his thoughts. Adel, it's your turn. He exhaled, stepping forward with quiet resolve. Arsen Adel noticed the bracelet on her wrist and asked politely if she knew its exact abilities. She explained that descriptions were available inside the room, so he would learn more once inside. However, she warned him not all items had descriptions. Some required intuition or trial to understand. Arsen Adel's curiosity sharpened if there's no information. Were those items considered failures or simply too complex to explain? He doubted they'd guard worthless gear so carefully. Clearly, there was more than met the eye here. Arsen Adel stood firm, convinced that even the items without descriptions must hold some hidden significance within. The instructor addressed him plainly, reminding Arsen Adel that he was the final student left to enter. Arsen Adel hesitated, prompting the instructor to invite him to speak freely if something was on his mind. Gathering courage, Arsen Adel asked what it meant when an item lacked any description or details inside. The instructor confirmed such items were still mysteries. No known user or confirmed abilities had been discovered yet. The instructor warned Arsen Adel items may grant power or curse the user for the rest of life. Urged to proceed quickly, Arsen Adel faced the door, unsure whether being last was blessing or burden. He took a deep breath and stepped forward, unsure what lay beyond the heavy, sealed entrance. Inside, glowing lights illuminated a clean, quiet chamber. It was calmer than Arsen Adel had expected. He glanced around cautiously, hoping no hidden traps or sudden surprises would catch him off guard. Arsen Adel approached the glowing passage, certain that the true artifact chamber lay just beyond those ornate doors. cold mist swirled around dozens of sealed cases, each containing a relic silently waiting to be chosen. Arsen Adel was stunned by the variety and aura of each item. The atmosphere felt overwhelming, yet fascinating. One spear stood out from the rest, its design intricate and mysterious. Arsen Adel moved closer to examine it. The plaque described it as the Twin Fang Spear, housing vengeful serpent spirits with immense magical strength. Arsen Adel studied the spear's description. It sounded impressive, but he already had weapons and didn't need another. He moved on to a glowing orb, the starlight crystal, made for illuminating shadows with starlight. Since he favored the dark element, Arsen Adel dismissed it, deciding it wasn't worth using even temporarily. Then he noticed an empty display case. Curious, he wondered what item had originally been there. A voice echoed, "The Great Circlet of the Victor, a relic enhancing stamina until its owner dies." Arsen Adel realized the artifact was bound to its owner for life, a harsh condition with serious consequences. He remembered it from his novel Worn by Baltan, the greedy character he had personally created. Binding items were things he'd removed from the story. Yet here they were, now real. The realization struck him most powerful artifacts had likely already been claimed before he entered this place. Displays labeled Bind of the Python, Flag of the Demon General, and more all stood empty now. Frustrated, Arsen Adel shouted in disbelief. All valuable items were gone, only scraps and leftovers remained for him. The strongest relics were taken by elite students. He panicked, unsure what to choose or risk. Most remaining weapons lacked value. Arsen Adel hesitated in front of a sword, unsure if it held promise. He grabbed the sword reluctantly. If it was cursed, he might still have a plan in mind. Suddenly, inspiration struck. Arsen Adel recalled a specific method, something only he, the writer, could possibly think to use. Arsen Adel hesitated but decided to use some gold. He needed crucial information before making his decision. He requested details about the broken sword without a description, curious if it held hidden value. The system demanded payment, either a high-grade artifact or 100 gold coins for the answer. Startled, Arsen Adel paused. Those terms were steep. Then he noticed another item beside it, also lacking details. He asked about the damaged scroll instead. This time, the cost was lower, just 50 gold coins. Arsen Adel nodded and committed 50 gold coins, thinking this system of pricing might reveal hidden value. He reasoned the priciest item might be the most powerful, so he'd ask based on cost. Among 7 descriptionless boxes, he decided to begin with the eagle-shaped black stone sealed in glass. It cost only 1 gold coin. Arsen Adel paid, curious about its purpose despite the low price. The answer shocked him. It swapped the owner's luck with someone else's misfortune. Arsen Adel shivered, moving on. Arsen Adel reviewed more boxes. One required 100 gold coins, another asked for 50. He kept searching. He sighed, frustration building. Most choices were unimpressive, not worth their cost or his remaining time. There were only 2 containers left. He braced himself, hoping one might be worth the gamble. A panel revealed, "Mythical grade requires at least 500 gold coins." Arsen Adel's heart raced with sudden excitement. Eager and hopeful, he shouted with joy. This artifact could surpass all others. He'd take it. Arsen Adel froze in place, his sharp instincts flaring. Something unnatural had stirred within the dark hall. A mysterious blue box floated mid-air, humming softly, emanating an aura both inviting and ominous. He stepped forward, uncertain but drawn by the strange pull echoing from within the glowing artifact. His chest tightened. A presence loomed silent, watchful. He felt as though he wasn't truly alone. Spotting the final necklace, Arsen Adel whispered, "Tell me everything about this unnamed piece. Now!" Arsen Adel leaned closer. The moment he touched the box, a pulse of energy surged outward violently. Engulfed in glowing, flame-like aura, he stumbled back, confused. "Why is it reacting like this now?" A message appeared in midair. "You must offer a god!" The demand struck him speechless. His eyes widened with realization. This wasn't ordinary magic, this was divine. "Is this a legendary item?" Arsen Adel stared at the glowing vault, relieved. He had expected doom, but fortune favored him today. The seal shimmered open, revealing a necklace within. Arsen Adel reached for it, curiosity overtaking his caution. He paused, frowning. Without a god to offer, the ritual's next step was still unclear. The artifact pulsed beneath the glass. "What is this necklace?" he muttered, suspicion shadowing his expression. He extended his hand. With cautious hope, he whispered, "Maybe it reacts, if I use mana." Arsen Adel stared at the sealed relic in silence. No reaction followed his mana infusion attempt. Frustrated, he muttered, "If only I understood its function." Still, the vault repeated the same demand. He stood, circling it cautiously. "Maybe I should try a trick," he spoke to the relic. "Which god is connected to the necklace?" he asked. The response remained identical. "Offer a god." Sighing, Arsen Adel leaned forward, despair creeping in. "Should I just give up? Or try something else?" Arsen Adel clenched his fist. "No, I'm sure of it. This necklace isn't just for show." He examined it closely, fingers trembling slightly. "It's far more valuable than any ordinary magical artifact." Still cautious, he extended his hand. "Let's check the system, just to be completely certain." The status window lit up unusual talents, dark alignment, and mana overflow confirmed his growing suspicions instantly. Satisfied, Arsen Adel nodded. "No one else would want this trouble. I'll take my time learning." The instructor's gaze narrowed. "What's that necklace?" he asked, eyeing the artifact around Arsen Adel's neck. Arsen Adel replied calmly, "It was one of those items with no description. That's all I know." The man crossed his arms. "So you picked it without knowing anything? Suspicious? You must know something." Arsen Adel shook his head with a smile. "No, I really don't know anything about it." The instructor frowned but nodded. "All right. As a training officer, I have to trust my cadets." The instructor dismissed them with advice. "Take care of your artifacts, they could save your life someday." Arsen Adel watched the others walk ahead, thinking, "They'll be future leaders. They're already receiving endless support." His gaze lowered. "If only I could receive that backing, too. It would help a lot." He glanced at the necklace, unsure. "Can I really succeed in Saitan with just this alone?" As the group dispersed, he turned to Renee. "Shall we go back?" She nodded. "Yeah, let's." A voice shouted out, "Group 35, leader!" Adele turned in confusion, unsure who was calling. A cheerful cadet waved enthusiastically. "Ha-ha! Sorry, was I too loud? We haven't properly met yet." "Baltan?" Adele blinked. The energetic student introduced himself. "Nice to meet you. I'm Baltan." Baltan extended his hand. "The way you fought was impressive." Adele shook it. "Thanks, I'm Adele." Adele blinked, surprised. Didn't expect this, but at least he came to talk first. His eyes twitched. Adele froze. Baltan's expression twisted with fury. A strange pressure poured from his suddenly hostile gaze. Adele sweated. What the hell is he doing? Why this sudden change in his mood? Baltan had a reputation. He looked down on the weak, his actions fueled by envy and dominance. Adele remembered rumors. Baltan once dragged a regional town to chaos just for feeling disrespected once. Baltan smiled again. "What's wrong?" Adele forced a smile. "It's nothing." Inside, his doubt only grew deeper. A system message blinked. Position transfer 2. Target set. Adele instinctively prepared as energy surged around him. Baltan lunged forward, weapon drawn, but before it hit, another cadet appeared, intercepting the strike mid-air. "Stop it," the cadet said firmly. "The test just ended. Everyone's exhausted." He blocked without hesitation. Baltan stepped back, chuckling. "Ha ha! I didn't even notice that coming. You're pretty fast, huh?" Then his eyes lit up with fury. "You're strong, let's fight now, until one of us dies." Adele stepped back in shock. "He's insane, what a psycho!" His voice trembled, posture defensive. "I already told you I don't want to fight," Adele shouted, raising both hands in surrender. A new voice cut through. "If you want to fight my friend, you'll fight me too." Everyone paused. The threat landed hard. Tension filled the air as weapons lowered slightly. Baltan grinned. "I love fighting, but 2-on-1's too much. Let's not get expelled so soon." Baltan grinned wickedly. There'll be more chances. See you next time, Adele. Then he walked away. Adele exhaled sharply. He backed off, but wanted to fight to the death? What a lunatic. He narrowed his eyes. I can't figure him out. When did he even draw his sword? Renee stepped closer. Let's go, Adele. He gave a small nod. Yes, Miss Renee, let's. Adele glanced back once. It's only been a day, but Saitan already feels like an adventure. The morning sun rose above the dorm house, casting light on a calm, peaceful day. Adele stretched by the window, letting out a soft sigh. Ah, this feels really good. Maybe it's from yesterday's struggles, but I feel more refreshed than usual, he muttered to himself. Flexing slightly, he nodded. My body's adapting fast. I'm definitely stronger than I was before. He reached for new clothes. Saitan sent uniforms here directly. They're actually being thoughtful about this. Adele adjusted the collar. Oh, it's more comfortable than I expected. Not bad for a uniform. They said we'll wear this for 3 years. At least it's practical, he muttered while buttoning. He recalled handing Renee her uniform. I wonder how she looks in it. Should I check? A knock interrupted his thoughts. The sound was soft but firm, coming from her door. Who is it? Renee asked. Adele replied, It's me, just checking if you need anything first. Adele smiled faintly as Renee responded. He stepped back, hearing her voice gently say, Come in. He paused the moment he saw her. Renee stood in uniform, light shining around her frame. Adele stared quietly, briefly speechless. His mind blanked at the sight before him. You're beautiful, he finally said, voice sincere. Renee's ears twitched, a visible blush rising across her cheeks. She coughed, trying to deflect. Ahem, going somewhere? Adele noticed, amused. Even her ears turned completely red. Adele watched her flustered reaction and smiled. Is she embarrassed? She's got a surprisingly cute side. It's a rare day off, he added lightly. I thought I'd explore the city a bit. He bowed politely. Please take time to rest as well, Miss Renee. I'll take my leave. He turned to go, but paused when she suddenly called out, Wait! You have something you need to do, don't you? Renee asked, her expression suddenly serious and firm. Renee lowered her gaze, cheeks flushed. She hesitated, then softly said, You're avoiding what truly matters. Arsen Adel stood frozen mid-step, a strange tug in his mind reminding him of something urgent. He recalled the mission guarding the silver-haired girl waiting silently by the dormitory wall, eyes wary. His face tensed. Distracted by thoughts of rest, he'd nearly forgotten his one job that night. He promised to join her, heading inside to change, while she nodded and waited without complaint. As the door shut behind him, Arsen Adel let out a sigh, bitterly muttering, My day off. The morning sun rose over the peaceful city, its people bustling beneath clear turquoise skies. Despite the crowds and cheerful noise, the city's calm felt unreal after a war 10 years ago. Adele quietly observed the restored streets, reminded that some outer districts still bore scars from human conflict. Though the humans fought hard, their assault had failed to crush the capital's core entirely. A girl tugged his sleeve and smiled, suggesting street food, and he nodded with a soft grin. Flames danced under rows of skewers, the aroma drawing hungry eyes from across the busy street. Adele asked curiously about the food, and the vendor explained it was seasoned buck and vegetables. Still unsure, Adele ordered 2 skewers, and the girl beside him politely thanked the food seller. She took a bite, pausing briefly before her eyes brightened at the rich, smoky taste. Adele asked if it was good. Her cheerful nod answered everything as they continued enjoying lunch. Adele noticed Renee's rare smile, surprised someone usually so reserved could show such a gentle expression. They strolled past a fountain, blending into the peaceful crowd, steps light under the midday sun. He glanced down at her beside him, thinking how unusual this calm day truly felt. Adele smiled quietly, aware this peace might not last, savoring the moment for what it was. Suddenly, his gaze locked onto a towering statue, its twisted form unsettling, triggering alarm deep within him. Adel stared at the giant statue, puzzled by its presence in the middle of the city. He asked about it, and Renee answered casually it was the legendary first Demon King's statue. The statue's features stirred something in him. Its resemblance to Diana left him strangely unsettled. Deciding to inspect it further, Adel stepped closer, wanting a better look at the Demon King. As he approached, the statue's eyes glowed with eerie light, sending a surge of energy outward. Adel's chest glowed brightly, his necklace suddenly reacting to the statue's pulse with alarming intensity. He stumbled back in shock, clutching the necklace as its central gem pulsed with blinding green light. Energy surged through his body, lifting him off the ground and pulling him toward the statue. A gray shimmer spread across one gem, leaving Adel breathless and wide-eyed from the strange reaction. He stared down, heart pounding, whispering in disbelief, "What on earth is happening to this necklace?" Renee scolded Adel for spacing out, unaware of the strange energy he had just experienced. He questioned his senses, unsure if he truly saw the lights or imagined the statue shifting. The necklace still glowed faintly, confirming something had changed at least to him, though no one else noticed. Renee looked confused, but Adel realized she hadn't seen anything. Only he reacted to the statue's power. He recalled cryptic past messages, yet never expected real signs would appear here so suddenly and so clearly. Adel clenched the necklace, convinced it was tied to the first Demon King in some way. He decided to return for now, hoping further investigation would reveal something useful about its origin. The following day, refreshed from rest, Adel and Renee traveled to Saitan for the academy's ceremony. They arrived just in time, the staff already gathered inside, and students began filling the grand hall. Adel sat quietly among the crowd, thinking to himself, "This seems like just a normal ceremony." Students whispered about the tiny headmaster, surprised someone so small could lead the entire academy. Adel scoffed at their ignorance, remembering how easily she overwhelmed everyone with pure strength and presence. He stared at her critically, unimpressed by her childlike appearance masked by power and tattoos. The headmaster paused mid-speech, her sharp gaze locking onto Adel's eyes with sudden and intense curiosity. A strange force surged through him as her stare deepened, and he cried out in pain. Adel muttered she was adorable, then froze, realizing too late that she might have read his mind. Instructor Aries barked for silence, signaling the formal start of the entrance ceremony inside the grand hall. As the headmaster delivered her simple speech, the tense energy in the room slowly began fading. Her final words echoed every student must follow Saitan's rules before stepping back without further explanation or welcome. Immediately, another instructor announced the top cadet and runner-up, calling them forward before the gathered crowd. As predicted, the two strongest students were named top cadet and runner-up without surprise or protest. Renee showed no reaction, her thoughts still focused solely on avenging her mother's tragic, unresolved death. Adel reminded himself to stay focused, unaffected by rankings, determined to complete his goals without distraction. Suddenly, he felt a strange presence again, his body stiffened as something unseen gripped his attention tightly. That same red-haired cadet smirked ominously. Watching him closely, Adel tensed, thinking, "Why does this stalker keep appearing?" Adel calmed himself, resisting the urge to react, determined not to give the stalker satisfaction. The top cadet's name was called, and all eyes turned as footsteps echoed through the hall. She stepped forward gracefully, her presence commanding attention. She was clearly used to the spotlight. Whispers spread. Diana, daughter of the Demon King, was believed to be blessed by the gods. Everyone raised their hands as the oath began, pledging loyalty to Saitan and the Academy's code. Diana's voice rang with resolve, calling everyone to rebuild their fallen realm and restore demonic pride. Her words shifted the room's mood. Anger and grief surfaced from those who'd lost everything. Adel clenched his hand, anxiety rising. His true identity as a descendant of Arsen must remain hidden. He imagined the worst, endless torture if his bloodline secret were discovered by the wrong person. As the ceremony ended, Instructor Aries ordered cadets to check assignments and head to their rooms. Adele called Renee to check the board together, both heading off toward the assignment lists. They joined the crowd gathering beneath the bulletin, scanning the sheets for their names and classes. Adele found his name quickly. He had been placed into Class A, the top student group. He turned to ask about Renee, already sensing she wouldn't be in the same class. Sure enough, she was in Class C. He grinned teasingly, earning a cold glare in return. Renee reminded Adele of his duty as her guard, insisting he respond whenever she calls. He accepted with a grin, feeling relieved that his responsibility wouldn't separate them completely after all. Adele turned, thinking he might finally relax for a moment until someone bumped into him hard. He looked up, confused, meeting eyes with a stranger radiating an aggressive and hostile presence. The boy smirked menacingly and growled, "You want to die? You creepers looking extra twitchy today." Adele's eyes widened in shock as recognition hit. He knew exactly who this threatening guy was. Samuel of Gluttony House stood confidently. Arsen Adel recognized him from the 7 deadly sins lineage. Recalling Samuel's reputation, Arsen Adel stayed calm. He knew provocation now would ruin his plans for today. Arsen Adel apologized, brushing past the confrontation. Samuel, annoyed, commanded him to move, asserting early dominance at school. Arsen Adel sighed quietly, wondering why heirs of the 7 sins always behaved with such unwarranted arrogance. He looked skyward, muttering to himself, surely Beelzebub's heir wouldn't stoop to join Class A, right? Idea slammed his hand on the table, demanding attention. His frustration with the Academy's decision boiled over. He declared himself a rightful instructor, asserting authority. The faculty members observed his outburst in tense silence. Warning them, Idea insisted the student was too dangerous to be left in inexperienced hands again. Another instructor argued back, reminding Idea the student was already assigned to him by the class system. A senior figure interrupted sharply, commanding Idea to sit. The conflict paused, but tension still filled the room. Aries groaned in frustration, slumping in his chair. He couldn't understand why trouble always followed him. The director questioned him calmly, curious why he insisted on switching to handle trainee Adele's class directly. Aries answered firmly. He believed only his combat experience qualified him to supervise someone as dangerous as Adele. With a serious gaze, Aries declared Adele was born a killer and must be restrained for safety. Another instructor objected, doubting Aries's concern. They saw Adele as weaker than the prestigious children of sin. Aries argued that strength wasn't just power. Calm judgment and bold decisions mattered just as much. He claimed Adele's mental strength rivaled that of the 7 deadly sins, shocking some at the table. Determined, Aries stated he must handle Class A himself. Adele required strict guidance and constant observation. Another instructor, offended by the implication, stood up and shouted, demanding an explanation for Aries's behavior. He accused Aries of lacking trust, interpreting the decision as a personal insult to his own capability. The director apologized sincerely, but her frustration showed. She asked when they'd stop treating her like a child. A burst of power filled the room as she forcefully ended the growing argument around the table. Silence fell. No one spoke as her presence dominated the room, forcing everyone to listen. She acknowledged Aries's concerns, but reminded him that class assignments were final and couldn't be reversed now. Aries reluctantly accepted her decision, yet warned again that extra caution around Adele would still be necessary. The director instructed Idea to pay close attention to Adele. With a nod, Idea accepted the responsibility. She ended the meeting. All instructors were dismissed and ordered to meet their assigned students immediately. Outside classroom 1A, one instructor sighed deeply, wondering why misfortune always seemed to follow him everywhere. He forced a smile, masking dread. Inside, he questioned if fate had cursed him from the start. A classmate chuckled beside him, teasing. At least, he joked, it wasn't Diana who got assigned. The red-haired student sighed in relief, glad that neither Diana nor Baltan were in his class. He noticed her approaching and asked if she had followed him all the way to class. She laughed loudly, claiming destiny chose him. She declared him worthy of being her personal servant at school. He stayed silent, thinking, there she goes again, as her antics continued in front of everyone nearby. Suddenly, another student snapped at them both, threatening violence if they didn't quiet down immediately. Diana's eyes flared with anger. She couldn't believe what the boy across from her just said. Furious, she shouted threats at the dark-haired student. The redhead nervously laughed, pretending things would be fine. A loud bang interrupted the tension as someone slammed open the classroom door without warning or hesitation. All eyes turned toward the figure entering. The room filled with silence as they recognized the newcomer. Instructor Idea walked in, unimpressed. He scolded them for making noise and warned against fighting on day one. The red-haired student froze, recognizing the man. His expression shifted when he realized who their instructor was. The instructor slammed his hand on the desk, loudly welcoming the class with a bright, dramatic smile. He introduced himself as Idea, the one responsible for managing Class A, asking everyone to remember him. The red-haired student stood, introducing himself proudly as the Legion of Calamity, his tone filled with confidence. Whispers spread fast. Some claimed he killed 10,000 at Pollux River. One even exaggerated it to 30,000. The redhead felt hopeful. With someone that powerful as his instructor, maybe survival wouldn't be impossible. Instructor Idea clapped his hands, ending introductions. He began outlining how their lessons would be conducted. He wrote hunting method on the board and declared it would be their primary subject this term. The dark-haired student scoffed quietly, unimpressed. He doubted anything meaningful could be taught through that simple phrase. Another student raised a hand, confused. If they weren't hunting beasts or monsters, what exactly were they hunting? Instructor Idea revealed the truth. They would be hunting humans. The room fell silent at the revelation. The redhead leaned back, absorbing the weight of it. Now the academy training truly began for real. Diana smirked at the instructor's looks, but grimaced when she heard she'd be doing stamina training. The redhead panicked inside. Of all things, stamina was his weakest area, and he hated endurance drills. Instructor Idea gave the final instruction. Class was starting, and everyone was to gather at the training grounds. Under the bright sky, the students stepped onto the vast training grounds for their first physical session. The red-haired student looked around in awe. The field was enormous, much larger than he expected. He wondered aloud if the space was meant for practicing magic spells or weapon techniques in combat. Their instructor asked if everyone was present, preparing to begin the real training without further delay. Idea raised a strange, glowing object, telling them to focus on it as energy surged from within. A swirling vortex of magic expanded from Idea's hands, warping the air around the training ground. The redhead stepped back as strange armored figures began emerging slowly through the glowing magical portal. Dozens of intimidating warriors appeared, their forms clear and solid, marching forward like real enemy soldiers. Shock spread across the students' faces. The redhead yelled out, startled by the sudden, overwhelming presence. Idea smiled and explained calmly they weren't real people, just illusions created with precision through his magic. Idea casually mentioned that he had also created the Sword Saint illusion during the Academy entrance exam. He explained it was a clone with only 1/10 of the real Sword Saint's power. The red-haired student shivered. That much power in a simple illusion? This academy was far too intense. Idea smiled and gave the instructions reach him by getting through the illusions. That was the entire task. Looking over the group, Idea asked cheerfully who wanted to begin the challenge first without hesitation. Instructor Idea looked directly at him, confirming his name. All eyes shifted toward Adel in silence. Adel froze as Idea challenged him, daring him to stab his throat like he had the Sword Saint. Idea smiled wide, eyes sharp. The taunt wasn't just bold, it was a test wrapped in provocation. Arsen Adel stood before the instructor, power blazing behind him, realizing he had finally been noticed. He spoke confidently, assuming this intense duel would be fought directly with Instructor Lua, no one else. But Lua explained among humans, strength centers around leaders. Break the leader, and the group collapses. With a sly smile, Lua claimed the role of human leader, daring Arsen Adel to challenge him alone. Arsen Adel nodded solemnly, recognizing the tactic as defeat the chief, a strategic principle from his past life. Arsen Adel smirked coldly, confident that defeating the leader among humans would be a simple task. Lua laughed mockingly, declaring it impossible to subdue him and daring Arsen Adel to try touching him. With a shout, Lua signaled the start of the battle as soldiers braced for Arsen Adel's move. Arsen Adel activated position transfer move, his body flashing across the battlefield toward his unsuspecting opponent. Lua's eyes widened in shock as Arsen Adel suddenly appeared before him, faster than he could react. Arsen Adel closed in instantly, placing his weapon at Lua's neck, asking if that counted as victory. Recalling the earlier gap, Arsen Adel noted the distance he covered now felt like nothing at all. His skills had improved. Before, he could only teleport a few meters. Now it was effortless. Arsen Adel smiled, realizing he now had the power to destroy an enemy base without much effort. Lua laughed lightly, admitting he now understood the warning about Arsen Adel's potential, and Arsen Adel looked up, surprised. Lua acknowledged Arsen Adel's performance, granting a pass and telling him to return to his original position. Arsen Adel complied calmly, still uncertain why his presence had stirred up so much attention and emotion. He wondered if anyone had sensed his identity, though he hoped it remained completely hidden still. Lua addressed the rest, warning them about failure and assigning extra training to those who underperformed. Suddenly, a cadet charged at Arsen Adel from behind, screaming and attacking with unrestrained, reckless fury. Arsen Adel calmly evaluated the battle, noting the demons performed basic moves effectively against the powerless human cadets. Despite their efforts, the humans only brought down a few enemies, which was predictable under these circumstances. Arsen Adel realized the real danger would begin if Instructor Idea started controlling the soldiers directly with magic. Idea's soldiers charged aggressively. One cadet was hit hard, and Arsen Adel instinctively winced at the painful sight. Another cadet boldly leapt into the air, determined to vault over the chaos, and Arsen Adel watched, surprised. A volley of arrows flew toward the airborne cadet, forcing him to scream in mid-air helplessly. Arsen Adel stayed silent, observing the chaos calmly as others panicked around him and attacks rained down. One cadet fell twitching on the ground, and Arsen Adel silently praised how powerful position transfer truly was. Confident in his progress, Arsen Adel believed he could rise to the top of the academy's ranks. Lua called for the next cadet, and a student stepped forward, demanding Arsen Adel move from his path. Arsen Adel recognized the next participant, Samuel, and wondered if his confident attitude reflected real skill or just arrogance. Samuel stepped forward, eyes sharp and voice steady, announcing that he was ready to begin the test. Arsen Adel watched silently, analyzing Samuel's stance and energy, curious to see how strong this cadet truly was. Samuel's body began to radiate thick green energy, swirling around him as he gathered intense magical force. Power surged outward violently as Samuel activated his ability, green flames roaring with speed and clear precision. A massive green whirlwind surged around Samuel, its sheer size forcing everyone nearby to pause and watch. Arsen Adel stared into the storm, stunned by the scale of Samuel's magic and the pressure it generated. Samuel stepped forward calmly, unleashing his power as the green force cracked the floor beneath his feet. Arsen Adel recognized the magic Samuel's unique ability was called Gluttony, a destructive force that consumed everything in reach. Smirking slightly, Arsen Adel decided to let Samuel take the top rank spot, for now. Lua raised an eyebrow, surprised by the raw power displayed. This year's group was unusually talented. With swift motion, Lua neutralized the surrounding pressure, maintaining control as wind and dust surged around him. Arsen Adel watched and accepted it calmly. Of course, an instructor wouldn't be overwhelmed by a cadet's magic. Lua acknowledged Samuel's strength, admitting it was nearly enough to shake him, but not quite enough to win. Smiling playfully, Lua declared the truth despite the power shown. Samuel ultimately failed the test's true objective. Samuel looked confused, unsure why he had failed when his power had clearly dominated the battlefield. Lua raised one finger and calmly began explaining the true purpose behind the test's design. He summoned another wave of soldiers, eyes sharp, illustrating his next point through direct demonstration. Lua explained that without killing the leader, replacements would always come, endlessly filling the fallen ranks. Arsen Adel watched in disbelief. 200 new soldiers had appeared almost instantly, escalating the challenge even further. Lua acknowledged Samuel's power, noting it was exceptionally strong, especially impressive for someone in their first year. Arsen Adel silently watched as Lua dismissed Samuel and called for the next cadet to step forward. Samuel clicked his tongue in frustration but didn't argue, accepting the result as he returned quietly. Arsen Adel observed Samuel's reaction. His face showed clear irritation, but he was still handling the outcome maturely. Though silent, Samuel's sharp glance at Arsen Adel carried tension, an unspoken rivalry beginning to form between them. Samuel scoffed and turned away, clearly displeased with Arsen Adel's presence and the outcome of the test. Arsen Adel calmly explained Samuel's failure came from overconfidence, not skill, and that he himself had chosen the correct focus. He added that if Samuel had aimed at the right target, passing would have been much easier. Lua, amused, turned his attention back to the field and loudly welcomed the next enthusiastic challenger. With a cheerful shout, a confident silver-haired girl stepped forward, excited that her moment had finally come. The girl boldly announced herself as Fron of the 7 Deadly Sins, drawing attention from everyone nearby. Facing the armored soldiers, Fron shouted with pride, questioning how such lowly minions dared block her advance. She chuckled with confidence, but after several seconds of silence, she began to sense something was wrong. Doubt crept in as Fron stayed frozen, confused why her body wasn't responding as expected. Panic struck her mind something was off, and she had no idea what to do next. Arsen Adel observed calmly, already knowing that Fron, a child of lust, never fought with her own hands. Fron relied completely on her summoned minions, directing them like a queen commanding loyal servants from behind. Without those summoned creatures, she was unable to act, leaving her vulnerable in this combat scenario. Realizing the situation was turning against her, Fron panicked and knew she had to act immediately. Her eyes widened in shock as she saw Arsen Adel approaching her directly, with no hesitation at all. Desperate and panicked, Fron cried out to Arsen Adel, demanding help and calling him her personal slave. Arsen Adel stood still, blinking in disbelief, confused by her sudden words, and unsure how to even respond. Whispers erupted as the red-haired boy stared in disbelief. "Did she just call him slave?" He clenched his fists, confused. "What is she thinking? Why say that in front of everyone?" Arsen Adel stood silent, expression unreadable, as the silver-haired girl shouted, demanding help without hesitation or shame. She rushed toward the knights confidently, but they didn't move. Her magic failed, and panic set in. As she screamed, chaos broke out. He muttered, "Wait, can't she even buff herself at all?" He dismissed the thought. "No, maybe she has a reason." But her scream shattered everything. Confused, he moved closer. Strange green light surrounded him, pulsing gently. He tilted his head, unsure. "Thanks a lot," the girl said. "Don't mention it," someone replied calmly, channeling energy into her leg. The glowing magic spread across her skin, closing wounds. He stared, eyes wide at the impossible sight. "Healing magic?" he muttered. Then realization struck. But that's a power only humans are supposed to use. He stared at her healing magic, which means she must be a half-demon. That explains everything. "To think someone with rare healing talent is my classmate," he muttered. "I don't know her name." He hesitated. "Should I approach her now?" He needed a reason, anything, to start a proper connection. A classmate called out, "Cadet Adel, help her walk. The test's over." He nodded slightly, replying, "Understood." He stepped forward with calm purpose. "Well, this might count as my chance to get closer." Arsen Adel knelt down beside her. "Useless, Fron," she muttered, flinching as he tried to assist. He sighed, lifting her gently. "Please get up already. The test is finished. You're safe now." Another cadet growled, storming over. Did you see everything? He shouted, clearly furious and humiliated. Arsen Adel stayed calm. You looked weaker than a slave. The boy snapped. Are you mocking me? Before tensions rose further, the instructor clapped. All right, everyone, let's clean up and gather around. The instructor spoke confidently. I had expectations. The results weren't surprising, but still decent work. He smiled as the students gathered. First-hand experience teaches you where you stand, especially during combat. Where you make mistakes, he continued. A blue-haired student frowned slightly, letting out an annoyed tisk. The instructor pointed. And your limits. Understanding these helps everyone function better. Arsen Adel listened carefully, eyes sharp. Arsen Adel reflected. Humans separate classes by skill. Here it's random. Instructor idea is pushing team synergy. The instructor declared, Only one passed, Cadet Adel. Arsen Adel nodded calmly. Yes, while whispers spread quickly. With glowing eyes, the instructor smiled. I'll be looking forward to your progress. The tone felt sharp. Arsen Adel bowed slightly. Thank you. I'll work hard to learn everything. Shadows loomed behind him in silence. Return to your classrooms for the next class, she ordered. Arsen Adel paused, confused by her strange tone. He walked quietly, thinking, was that praise? Why did it sound like a threat hiding in words? She's always trying to pick a fight, Arsen Adel muttered. Is it even possible to stay independent? The academy building stood tall. Classes rotated regularly, but the weight of expectations remained the same. After ideas class, students gathered for theory. A man introduced himself as head of theoretical education. The instructor lectured on demon races, their physiology, and how humans often lacked compatible strengths in battle. Arsen Adel listened carefully. Our bodies are similar, but I still don't trust the human comparison one bit. The instructor warned, There'll be a quiz next time. Memorize everything if you want to survive. Students turned pages nervously. Arsen Adel's hand trembled as he flipped through the heavy, complex textbook silently. He slumped forward. Is this for real? It feels exactly like when I attended school. Groaning, Arsen Adel buried his face in his arms. First day, and I already feel completely drained. The class buzzed around him, but Arsen Adel just stayed still and mumbled to himself, Ha! Arsen Adel sighed quietly. No friends now, just like back then. The loneliness crept in again. From across the room, she glanced at him. His slouched posture caught her attention briefly. Oh, right. There's that girl, he remembered. Her presence had stood out more than he expected. Maybe I should talk to her this time, he thought, standing up with hesitant determination. He slowly approached, each step unsure. She sat quietly, unaware of the attention directed toward her. Arsen Adel hesitated near her desk. He began, awkwardly trying to form the right words. He managed a soft smile. It's nice to meet you. I'm Adel, he said calmly. Students began turning their heads. Whispering spread fast. Suddenly their interaction drew the whole room's attention. Arsen Adel blinked in confusion. Wait, why is everyone looking over here? The silence grew thicker. She finally replied, flustered. Yeah. Nice to meet you too, she answered shyly. When two half-demons talk, people stare, Arsen Adel noted. She's uncomfortable. I'll stop here for now. He offered a short smile. I'll talk to you another time. She nodded softly. Goodbye then. He turned around. Maybe I'll head to the restroom, feed my loneliness mana or something dumb. But as he stepped forward, he bumped into another student, taller, dressed neatly, eyes narrowed. Ha! What terrible timing, Arsen Adel thought. He immediately sensed this wouldn't be a casual encounter at all. The boy sneered. You again? His glare sharp, voice dripping with disdain and an old grudge. Arsen Adel kept calm. I was just leaving. Go ahead. I'll go after you. The boy muttered coldly. Humph, you nauseating low-class creature. Their eyes met, tension rising between their auras. Arsen Adel said nothing, but red mana swirled faintly around him, reacting to the insulted pride burning inside. With mockery, the boy added, Your family must be amazing, huh? His smirk barely concealed cruel intent. The student's eyes widened. What? His energy flared violently, filled with rage at the bold insult. He growled, "To think I've produced garbage that walks and talks like you? It's disgusting." Veins pulsing, he shouted, "You filthy little, I'll tear you to pieces." His body surged with power, dark energy twisted around him. Unlike Baltan, this guy radiated nothing but raw hostility and bloodlust. Arsen Adel narrowed his eyes. "If he'll block my path, better to eliminate him right now." Arsen Adel stepped forward, energy surging. Green tendrils twisted behind him as magic began to pulse outward. His expression remained calm. "If I use magic, no one would mind if he lost something." Just as the tension peaked, a firm voice echoed across the room. "Stop right there." The instructor entered. "We're about to start class. Both of you, return to your seats now." The hostile student froze, surprised. His anger paused, forced to obey before things escalated further. Arsen Adel flinched as pressure filled the room. Sweat rolled down. "When did he get here?" The blue-haired student stood silent, wary of the new instructor who appeared without prior notice. He remembered how strange things began. Samuel awakened, hidden talents surged, everything shifted when that man arrived. A question haunted him. Who exactly is this instructor? His presence breaks all rules of logic. With a calm voice, the instructor urged them back to their seats, ignoring the tension in silence. Annoyed by the dismissal, the student clicked his tongue. Still, he obeyed. The mystery remained unanswered. The man introduced himself as Robolt, declaring he would teach them magic starting from today onward. The red-haired student thought Robolt's position made sense. His abilities and presence already hinted at advanced skill. He reflected, in every fantasy world, the first thing people usually think of is magic. In the student's novel, however, magic wasn't an innate gift. It worked more like a learned skill. Robolt addressed the class again, warning them that before learning magic, one crucial truth must be understood. In the classroom, the professor explained mana attributes' core elements like earth, fire, water, and wind. He added light and darkness to the list, totaling 6, while cadets listened with focused eyes. Arsen Adel watched silently, uncertain of his own powers. He pondered, maybe I hold more attributes? Remembering family lineage, he suspected darkness might dwell in his blood, though doubt still clouded his certainty. The professor placed a glowing orb. "Place your hand, reveal your mana," he said. Arsen Adel stepped forward. The instructor ordered everyone to form a line. One by one, cadets would reveal their attribute. Arsen Adel stayed behind, silently observing. Others approached the orb, hesitant but curious about their true nature. The first cadet placed his hand on the orb, watching as it glowed with intense red light. "Fire attribute," the professor confirmed. Arsen Adel nodded quietly. Another cadet stepped up as the colors changed again. Yellow light shimmered this time. "Earth attribute. Next," the instructor said, as the line of cadets shortened. Arsen Adel realized it was already his turn. He moved forward, slightly surprised by the quick pace. As he approached, the instructor called for him. Arsen Adel blinked, surprised the man knew his name. "Cadet Adel?" the instructor asked. Arsen Adel nodded cautiously, wondering why his identity drew sudden attention and curiosity. "Place your hand on the orb," the instructor instructed calmly. Arsen Adel obeyed, feeling uncertain yet composed. His fingers touched the orb. It pulsed with strange energy, humming louder than with any other cadet. As the orb glowed, Arsen Adel stared in confusion. "What's with this color?" he asked aloud. The instructor leaned closer. "This is extremely rare. Half is black, and the other half is gray." He confessed uncertainty. "Black means darkness, common among high-ranking demons. But gray is unfamiliar to me." Arsen Adel raised an eyebrow. "So you don't know either?" The instructor replied, "I do, it's just rare." "Gray represents chaos," he said seriously, "the attribute of magic that defies the natural order itself." Arsen Adel was stunned. "There's magic like that?" he asked. The instructor only offered an apologetic shrug. "I'm sorry, I don't know more," he said. Arsen Adel nodded slowly, accepting the lack of answers. Chaos. I've never heard of it, not even in my novel, Arsen Adel thought, growing deeply concerned. Defying natural order. Maybe that's a clue, but I'll focus on darkness. I know that one. He glanced toward the window, thoughtful and calm. Gray, huh? He muttered, arms folded in resolve. Arsen Adel repeated the phrase in his mind. Magic that defies the natural order, it echoed ominously. Suddenly, a presence appeared behind him. Startled, Arsen Adel turned as a white-haired girl lunged forward silently. He stood quickly. What are you doing behind me? He asked, surprising her with his awareness. Wait, how did you detect my stealth technique? She blurted, shocked that he sensed her approach. She crossed her arms, flustered. Forget stealth! What were you thinking? Her tone was sharp and demanding. Arsen Adel smirked. What do you mean? He asked, feigning innocence as the tension quietly grew. Don't play dumb, another cadet snapped. You provoked that guy. His tone was sharp, eyes narrowed tightly. Arsen Adel stayed quiet. The girl beside him crossed her arms. I just couldn't stand being picked on. He tilted his head. Is that a problem? The other cadet shouted. You insulted his family. She turned away coolly. Outside forces can't enter Saitan. It doesn't matter. He groaned. That's not the point. Arsen Adel tilted his head, confused. What? The girl sighed, clearly frustrated by his lack of awareness. This isn't just demon versus demon, she said. That kid's family is complicated, she warned with concern. She exhaled heavily, turning her gaze aside. The weight of unspoken danger lingered between her words. I'll go back for now. Just be careful from now on, she said, walking away calmly. Arsen Adel pondered. Was she warning me about revenge? No, her voice didn't carry fear, just quiet advice. Arsen Adel shifted his focus. It's the last class today. I should concentrate, he reminded himself quietly. As he recalled the instructor's name, a heavy slam shook the room, silencing casual thoughts instantly. A burly man shouted, You weaklings! His voice thundered. You don't even deserve to be here! He was Aries, a survival instructor. Most groups were annihilated, facing one puppet with limited strength. Arsen Adel observed. Hurting pride from the start. Is he provoking us on purpose? He wondered, frowning slightly. Aries explained. You must hold your opponent's arm. He smirked. So, we'll start with running. Run! He barked. The cadets shot from their seats, racing outside as dust trailed their frantic pace. Aries watched with crossed arms. Swordsmanship starts with physical strength. Endurance makes every strike much stronger. Arsen Adel gasped. I'm gonna die! How long is this? Another cadet whimpered. We're on the 30th lap! Aries roared. Hey, you two! The two cadets froze mid-stride, unsure if they were about to collapse. Aries barked. Who told you to use mana to run? The two cadets froze instantly. Sorry! They yelped in unison. Aries' face darkened. You're starting over! From the beginning! They screamed in despair. Watching them run, Arsen Adel muttered, These rich kids always try to cheat their way through training. He recalled his past. Right after Reincarnation, I beat knights and fled into the demon world's chaos. Finally, the instructor shouted, You all did well. Those who finished, report to your assigned dorms. Aries shouted behind them, Those who didn't finish in time will get extra lessons. Everyone flinched. Arsen Adel sighed, wiping sweat from his brow. Phew, today was no joke. Let's head to dorms. They followed the stone path under a clear sky, the majestic dormitory building rising in the distance. Reaching the steps, Arsen Adel groaned internally. I'm exhausted. I just want to rest as soon as possible. Scanning the area, he looked around in confusion. Where's the entrance to the boys' dorms? Just as Arsen Adel turned toward the dorm, a hand grabbed his shoulder firmly from behind. He flinched and spun around, surprised by the unexpected touch and the strange presence approaching quickly. His eyes widened. Renee? He blurted, recognizing the dark-haired girl staring intently, expression unreadable. Her piercing blue eyes held no warmth. Arsen Adel tensed. Why is she here and now? Arsen Adel approached Renee on the path, curious if she was heading to the dormitories alone. she confirmed, quiet and cold as always. Arsen Adel gently asked about her experience on the first day. Her silence was heavy. Arsen Adel wondered if someone had upset her, fearing a possible misunderstanding. Her sharp voice cut through the air training wasn't enough. Her dissatisfaction pierced Arsen Adel's confusion instantly. Eyes focused, Renee issued a command help her with cool-down exercises. No refusal would be accepted. Renee asked firmly if he'd help. Arsen Adel hesitated, caught off guard by her serious gaze. She stood ready, unwavering. Arsen Adel sighed, thinking she never seemed tired, always focused, always a step ahead. She mentioned a training ground nearby and urged him to follow quickly before time slipped away. Arsen Adel agreed, realizing that training with someone descended from the 7 deadly sins might be useful. Arriving at the building, he looked around, surprised at its scale. "It's quite spacious," he muttered. Inside the facility, equipment filled every corner. Arsen Adel observed cadets training hard, clearly building physical strength. Renee selected a barbell and asked Adel to begin. He volunteered eagerly, curious about his capability. He approached confidently, noting its weight. Dismissing concern, he assured Renee he'd lifted heavier in the past. Muscles strained, veins bulged, his confidence cracked. The weight resisted him completely, shocking his body with overwhelming force. Renee watched calmly and declared, "You're too weak. Stop before you get hurt." His pride quietly deflated. Arsen Adel collapsed, gasping for air. His body, soft from years indoors, couldn't handle the strain. Renee lifted the heavy barbell effortlessly, drawing astonished eyes. Arsen Adel could only watch in stunned admiration. He admitted to himself that even in raw strength, he lagged behind. He needed improvement. Time passed unnoticed. The sun had shifted. Arsen Adel reminded Renee that 2 hours had already passed. Renee agreed calmly, still composed. Their session ended, but Arsen Adel's resolve to grow had just begun. After training, Arsen Adel offered to escort Renee to the dorms. She accepted without hesitation or question. Reflecting on the day, Arsen Adel noted how much training they'd done together in a short time. While Renee changed clothes, Arsen Adel grew curious about his progress and decided to check his status. A holographic window opened, displaying race, talents, and traits. His mana had increased slightly, reaching 132 units. Despite daily mana manipulation practice, the small gain frustrated him. Just 24 points increase over constant effort. Arsen Adel sighed, realizing he was in a slow growth phase. He considered using elixirs for help. Renee returned from changing and caught him daydreaming. Her voice snapped him back into focus. Together, they left the training area, walking quietly toward the dormitory after their long, exhausting session. At the dorm entrance, Arsen Adel politely bid her good night. Renee simply replied, "You too, Adel." Alone again, Arsen Adel nearly stumbled. Completely drained, he muttered, "Let's hurry back to the dorm and rest." Arsen Adel entered the dormitory alone, scanning the elegant hallways as he made his way upstairs. He recalled his acceptance letter and double-checked the instructions. His assigned dorm room was clearly listed. "Room 407, he muttered, ascending to the 4th floor and walking quietly through the corridor. Standing before the door, he briefly wondered about his future roommate, who they were, what they'd bring. He hoped for someone capable and decent. A good roommate could also become a useful ally. Arsen Adel approached the door nervously, hopeful yet anxious to meet his very first demon world roommate. He stepped inside, greeting the person seated casually on the bed with a polite, "Hello, nice to." Arsen Adel paused mid-sentence, suddenly recognizing the familiar face lounging with no concern or sense of formality. His thoughts froze. His eyes widened. It wasn't just anyone, it was someone he never expected. Shocked, he shouted without thinking, "What the hell are you doing here?" Confusion filled the room. The boy's expression darkened. His eyes locked onto Arsen Adel, and tension quickly filled the atmosphere. His fingers tapped restlessly on the table. The irritation on his face was clearly visible. Arsen Adel groaned internally, rubbing his temple. "Damn it, just my luck," he muttered with growing frustration. The boy clenched his jaw, thinking, Of all people, I have to share a room with him. Without another word, Arsen Adel walked deeper into the room, preparing to face whatever came next. The boy scoffed, calling Arsen Adel a filthy half-breed. Rage bubbled under Arsen Adel's carefully controlled expression. His thoughts raced. Should he retaliate now? One strike could end this arrogant fool's insults permanently. Instead, Arsen Adel exhaled slowly and turned away, choosing restraint over the confrontation he clearly could win. The boy jumped up aggressively, yelling, "Oh, you want to have a go?" His fists clenched tight. Arsen Adel ignored him. "I'm just going out for a bit. Fighting here'll only bring trouble." Arsen Adel calmly left the room, offering an intentionally polite farewell. "I hope you have a quiet rest." The other boy scoffed behind him, muttering under his breath, clearly annoyed by Arsen Adel's composed demeanor. Arsen Adel walked off, irritated. Of all people, why did he get that guy as a roommate? He planned to walk around, hoping the jerk would be asleep by the time he returned. Confused, he muttered, "Why's someone without Wrath's bloodline so angry?" The hostility just didn't make sense. Arsen Adel recalled that Samul was a Gluttony descendant. He pondered if wrathful behavior ran similarly. He thought about his own nature, chaos. Was it a behavior pattern or something deeper in magic? Arsen Adel considered checking the information paper for answers, but doubted it contained what he truly needed. If the paper knew the inscription lessons would have covered chaos, no point wasting money on it. With a sigh, he moved forward, determined to train mana techniques somewhere quiet and distraction-free. As Arsen Adel wandered through the woods, he took in the calm rustling of the surrounding trees. He paused, glancing up curiously. "Sparrow?" he wondered aloud, surprised to hear birds in this realm. A small bird perched nearby on a branch, blinking at him without fear. It seemed peaceful. He smiled faintly. "Cute," he admitted. Even in the demon world, nature's gentleness still existed. Looking around, Arsen Adel mused aloud. There are some wild creatures roaming around Satan's domain after all. Arsen Adel noticed the bird watching him. "Interesting," he muttered, then turned back toward the dormitory. Night had fallen. The academy glowed with soft lights as students settled quietly into their rooms. The dorm door creaked open gently. Arsen Adel stepped inside, relieved not to wake anyone up. His roommate was already fast asleep. Arsen Adel sighed in relief, thankful for a peaceful return. Collapsing into bed, he whispered, "I'm so exhausted." Within seconds, sleep overtook him without resistance. Lying in bed, Arsen Adel decided he should do a bit of mana training before sleeping. Eyes half-lidded, he began focusing inward, drawing mana slowly while trying to keep himself from dozing off. Fatigue overwhelmed him faster than expected. His focus faded, and sleep crept in despite his intention. Unbeknownst to him, his roommate stood nearby, glowing eyes watching silently with a strange, unsettling presence. He stared silently at the sleeping boy, his breath steady, completely unaware of the looming, watching presence. Even asleep, the boy's clueless face irritated him. It stirred old resentment buried beneath years of pride. That boy he humiliated his name, tarnished the legacy of his house with disgrace and reckless behavior. Still, despite being wronged, his pride refused to bend. Apologies were beneath someone of his stature. Yet seeing him fight fiercely in class, something inside stirred his chest, tightened with unexplainable pain. Sitting on the edge of the bed, he recognized the stabbing pain as something disturbingly familiar. A tremor shook through his body. He clutched his side, confusion and panic rising in tandem. Dropping to his knees, his breathing turned ragged, his hands trembled, and sweat poured from his skin. The gluttony inside him surged violently, consuming energy beyond control. It was draining him from the inside. His stomach twisted. It felt like everything inside was vanishing: his strength, his stability, his will to endure. The red-haired boy mumbled in his sleep again, shifting slightly, unaware of the other's bitter glare. Watching him grin in his dreams, the dark-haired one clenched his fist, frustrated by the sight. Morning sunlight crept in through the high windows of the academy as the tower bell rang softly. Slowly waking, the red-haired boy groaned and pushed himself up, confused by the brightness around him. Blinking at the morning light, he muttered groggily, trying to grasp the time and what happened. Spotting the bird again, he narrowed his eyes. It had returned, just like the day before. He frowned, suspicious. How could an outsider animal freely enter a secured academy without someone noticing? His instincts flared. Was this a subtle surveillance attempt? Maybe someone higher up was monitoring his movements closely. Leaning out the window, he confirmed it was real. Curious, he considered taming it using food. Glancing around the empty room, he guessed Samuel had gone already and decided to rush to breakfast. As he stepped out confidently, his mind suddenly froze. He had forgotten where the dining hall was. After wandering cluelessly for a while, he ended up inside a large classroom by mistake. His heart sank. Breakfast was already over and he hadn't eaten a single bite that morning. Seated among others, he rubbed his empty stomach, dreading how hunger might ruin his concentration today. Suddenly, the teacher called for attention, announcing something important. His focus sharpened despite the gnawing hunger inside. The teacher stood before the class with a smile, announcing they'd select a representative during homeroom. Shock spread across his face. Why now? It felt sudden, without any notice or preparation at all. A student raised his hand, asking how the representative would be chosen, by vote or assignment. The teacher admitted a change of plan. Instead of voting, he'd personally select the class representative. From the back, a student chuckled ominously, already anticipating who the teacher's unexpected choice might be. The girl celebrated loudly, praising the instructor's decision, basking in attention with unshakable confidence and flair. He recalled the novel's events. This was expected. Still, Samuel didn't exactly fit a leader's mold. She stepped forward boldly, claiming leadership and demanding loyalty from classmates like she ruled a small kingdom. He watched her antics, surprised at her energy. She wasn't the smartest, but clearly knew leadership dynamics. Some students whispered about other options like Adele, the half-demon, yet none dismissed her strength and presence outright. Someone mentioned Samuel's name with curiosity. He was intimidating, but his talent hadn't gone unnoticed by peers. Samuel stayed calm, surprised yet grateful that others acknowledged him, even if just through casual class chatter. Fron, already celebrating her assumed victory, declared herself the obvious pick, encouraging the teacher to confirm. The instructor sighed, then calmly shattered her expectation, announcing that she was not the chosen class representative. Shock hit her like thunder. She gasped, arms flailing, completely blindsided by the unexpected rejection. The instructor's voice echoed through the room, drawing in every eye as he named the representative. All heads turned in shock as he announced Adele, a pixie and half-demon, would lead the class. Stunned, Adele muttered in disbelief, unable to understand why he was chosen for such a responsibility. Whispers erupted immediately. Many questioned the decision, doubting a half-demon's worthiness to take charge among purebloods. The instructor remained firm, addressing Adele directly with trust, asking him to lead. Adele hesitantly accepted the role. The instructor dismissed himself for another class, leaving the remaining announcements to be handled by students. Samuel listened as the pink-haired cadet explained their upcoming practical exams and the shift in curriculum. Students were told to form teams of 3 before day's end, heightening tension across the room. As others processed the update, Adele reflected grimly. Practicals in this academy always meant something far darker. His thoughts turned cold. In this world, training wasn't survival drills, it was learning how to kill humans. As homeroom ended, the instructor called out to Fron, smiling, but with a warning behind it. He reminded her firmly that casual speech wouldn't be tolerated again, and offered private lessons as punishment. Watching her frustrated reaction, Samuel noted she was finally being reined in, something the class needed. The instructor then reminded Adele to submit the team formation list by day's end without any delays. Adele pondered how training would unfold, whether it involved real danger or just using Idea's magical dolls. Adele dismissed the idea of using dolls for training. Real teams implied real combat was ahead. He recalled the novel's timeline, realizing the human world's terror incident shouldn't happen for some time. Regardless, His priority shifted toward choosing solid allies, and he already had candidates in his mind. As students filtered into the halls, others remained unaware of the storm quietly gathering in the distance. A massive figure approached, heavy steps echoing through the corridor, an intimidating presence none dared to ignore. Instructor Idea sat calmly in the room, flipping through notes, when loud footsteps rushed down the hallway. Ares burst through the door, slamming it wide open, his voice thunderous with frustration and disbelief. Idea greeted him with a relaxed smile, unfazed by Ares' aggressive entrance and heated questions. Ares shouted, demanding a serious answer, irritated by Idea's teasing tone during such an important decision. He couldn't understand why Adel, a half-demon cadet, had been chosen to lead the class. Idea acknowledged the situation from earlier that morning, amused by how fast Ares learned about everything happening. Ares slammed his hand down, furious. Appointing Adel meant granting him real power within the Academy's elite class. Idea confirmed it knowingly, stating that even if temporary, Adel now held authority over Class A. Ares shouted in disbelief, warning that keeping Adel in that position could lead to serious consequences for everyone. His voice dropped low and threatening, demanding the decision be reversed immediately or there would be repercussions. The commander slammed his fist on the table, frustrated by yet another unexplained defiance from Arsen Adel. Arsen Adel calmly crossed his arms, his voice firm. "I don't want to." Silence filled the room. The outburst stunned the red-haired officer. He clutched his head, muttering, "This is driving me crazy." Yet admiration flickered in his eyes. "I like that kid," he confessed, surprised by his own words. "He's skilled and humble, but don't forget," the commander warned. "A dull blade cuts without warning." He sighed deeply, arms crossed, troubled by the burden of trust he'd placed on another. Turning his back, he warned, "I'll handle everything myself. You're not needed, stay out of it." The instructor puffed his chest. "I'm new, yes, but I know real talent when I see it." He slammed the floor proudly. "Instructor Idea," he declared, then paused, fists clenched, muttering, "Damn it." Regret burned in his chest. "I should have taken that class. Idea can't handle someone like him." Most importantly, he remembered the scar, a half-demon from the past who nearly took his life. Now that same energy returned. This new student's presence felt too similar to Adel's to ignore. He tried to stay rational. Odds were slim, but the resemblance haunted him more than logic. A bird landed nearby as he thought, "He's done nothing wrong, but something still feels off." With narrowed eyes, he watched quietly. The silence meant nothing. Danger doesn't always come with noise. The message was clear. Keep watching him. The bird soared, carrying his silent order away. His thoughts raced. "I can't take my eyes off him for even a moment," he resolved. Meanwhile, in the academy hall, students gathered excitedly, forming groups, laughing, unaware of the tension building nearby. The red-haired student watched silently, murmuring, "Everyone's busy forming teams during break time." "But no one asked me, even though I'm class president. Is it because I look shady?" Do you want to team up with me?" he asked, nervous but trying to sound casual. The dark-haired student nodded. "I don't really mind as long as you don't hold me back." "Thanks, Samuel. This is my friend," he began, while another student quietly watched in growing frustration. No one had asked him. He muttered, "I guess I have no choice but to move." Determined, he clenched his fists. For once, he would step forward and take the first action. She sighed, knowing the truth no one would approach a half-demon like her by choice. Time was running out. "I need to form a team before class ends," she whispered firmly. Spotting someone nearby, she stepped forward. "I'll just grab someone and—" Her voice trailed off in surprise. A menacing aura approached. She gasped, frozen in place, overwhelmed by the dark pressure he radiated. Suddenly, she hiccuped in fear. A boy nearby noticed her distress, raising a confused eyebrow silently. He had scanned her mana unintentionally. Maybe that's what startled her into hiccuping like that. Her mana was strong, and her healing magic showed promise. She'd be a great teammate. He smiled and asked kindly, "Have you found a team yet?" She shook her head nervously. "That's great then. What's your name?" he asked. She hesitated, then softly answered, "My name is Luna." He offered warmly. Join my team, I'm the class president. She blushed, flustered. That's a little sudden. He called her name firmly. Luna. She looked up, startled by the sudden seriousness in him. We're both half demons, he explained calmly. There's little time left, so we'd probably work well together. His confident gaze startled her. Blushing, she nodded. Fine, I'll do it. I'll join you. He smiled. That's an excellent choice. But a voice cut in sharply. What's so excellent about that? Another girl appeared suddenly, smirking. Ho ho ho, not grouped yet? He blinked. When did she even show up? With confidence, she declared, Come now, I'll take both of you under my wing. Luna interrupted. We just finished forming a group, so you can go. Her voice was calm. Unfazed, the girl laughed. I still can't recognize your authority. I am the true leader. He hesitated, thinking, should I refuse her? But her persistence made him choose a compromise instead. She'll lead, but must consult me. She's a descendant of the 7 sins, better to keep close. Just trust and follow me, your team leader. Fron beamed. Luna responded awkwardly, unsure but polite. It was all strategy stroking Fron's pride while ensuring her abilities were still used when needed. A week passed. New data flashed on the screen, traits and stats shifting in strange directions. Mana remained unstable, and chaos attribute unreadable. I need an elixir, or at least a clue. He clenched the sword, its aura unsettling. Maybe I'll learn more in magic class, he whispered. Crete's worm poison was becoming unstable. He'd need to carry the antidote at all times now. So many issues to manage. At least Samuel remained quiet, which helped keep things bearable. Despite it all, he told himself things would improve, even if slowly, and step by step. The bell rang through the academy, signaling morning classes. Today, something about the air felt different. Their instructor entered with a wide smile. He looked too cheerful. Did something happen this morning? The instructor smiled confidently. Now, today's class will be a bit special, he announced to everyone. We're going to have a field training session, he added, pausing as murmurs filled the classroom air. It would be their first field class. He wondered nervously, but outside? That's a surprise. We're leaving Saitan and heading out beyond. The location is Oregon. The instructor continued without hesitation. His heart sank. Oregon was a war site. They're taking us to a POW camp. For real? The instructor announced. We'll be taking the dimensional train, so everyone follow me and stay alert. He chuckled to himself. It's not even a vacation, but we get to go outside. The others were excited, but he knew Oregon's truth. They wouldn't smile if they understood. More than training awaited there, a hidden opportunity. If he moved fast, he could seize it first. Still, he worried. Can I do it unnoticed? The guards there? They definitely won't be weak. Why do you look so stiff? Fron teased cheerfully. He gave her a strained smile back. I guess I'm nervous. It's my first field class, he admitted, surprised by his own honesty. Oh, so you get nervous with your calm face. I didn't think that was possible. Her cheer never faded. Just follow me, he thought. Let's see if she stays this energetic. Still, her energy helped him relax. This is rare. No matter what, I'll seize the opportunity. The old steam train screeched to a halt, casting sparks under moonlight as fog surrounded everything. A lone figure stepped onto the gravel path, boots crunching softly, staring ahead at the looming gates. Everyone, we've arrived, the instructor announced, his voice echoing as they approached the towering fortress of Oregon. This is the prisoner of war camp, he said grimly, tension rising among the gathered recruits. Are we really doing field training here? Someone whispered, shivering under the cold, oppressive night air. An officer addressed the group firmly, assuring them no combat would occur during the scheduled training. Arsen Adel narrowed his eyes, muttering skeptically to himself, sensing something far worse than combat might soon unfold. A stern guard approached, eyes sharp. Have you come from Saitan? He asked, voice filled with authority. Arsen Adel stepped forward calmly and answered, Yes, here is our verification, handing over a sealed document scroll. The guard examined it briefly, nodded, then turned. Verification confirmed. Please follow me inside the facility." The students walked through the dim hallway, torches flickering while distant screams echoed beyond the walls. Footsteps halted as a desperate voice cried out from behind a locked cell, shaking some to silence. "Help me! I don't want to die!" the prisoner begged. Everyone stared, frozen in sudden fear. "What kind of place is this?" one student whispered, unable to look away from the barred cell. A foul scent lingered. "Something's off," muttered another. Arsen Adel observed quietly. "They're starting to react," he thought. The guard barked orders as they marched. No one dared lag behind in this tense place. Samuel walked calmly through the hallway, unaffected by the screams or the darkness surrounding the group. Arsen Adel paused mid-step, glancing back. "Everyone!" he called, noticing the sudden silence behind him. They entered a vast chamber. The instructor raised his voice. "We've finally arrived at the true training grounds." Arsen Adel stared at the towering structure ahead. "This is the true face of Oregon," he muttered. Behind rusted bars, prisoners with hollow eyes and broken bodies whispered from the depths of their misery. To them, this wasn't a prison. It was something much worse. It was hell itself. Their limbs were bound, flesh torn. Each one bore marks of surviving a nightmare no one understood. An instructor stepped forward. "These are humans who invaded the demon realm, killers, even of unborn children." He pointed at a prisoner. "Everyone, watch closely." Dark energy surged as something horrifying was about to happen. The prisoner trembled violently, barely able to speak, his body frozen in panic as energy surrounded him. A cold hand grabbed his face. The instructor forced his mouth open without emotion or hesitation. "Swallow this, nice and quiet. It'll all be over soon," he said, eyes glowing unnaturally bright. One student recoiled in disgust. Another watched with unsettling curiosity as the prisoner's body began to twist. The prisoner screamed, head thrown back, as black mist erupted, and his form started to mutate violently. With a sickening burst, the prisoner exploded into gore. Blood sprayed across the stone floor and uniforms. Dripping blood echoed in the silence. Arsen Adel watched quietly as pieces scattered near his feet. The instructor smiled coldly. "You just need to kill one human however you please. Pretty simple, right?" Some students turned away, nauseated by the brutal display. Others stood frozen, unable to look away. Arsen Adel remained calm. "Even after witnessing such a cruel death, I feel nothing. I've become one with Adel." Arsen Adel walked forward with resolve. "No matter what I must do, my goal remains unchanged." He vowed silently. Survive, fix this broken world, and fulfill Adel's final wish without hesitation. The instructor called out, "Class monitor, do you have anything to show us?" as silence returned. Without speaking, Arsen Adel stepped up to the bars, face unreadable, power forming quietly in his hand. He faced the prisoner directly. "Are there any last words you want to leave behind?" The prisoner snarled. "I only regret not killing more of you. Humans will wipe demons out." With a sharp motion, Arsen Adel silenced him. Blood splattered. The room fell still once again. He stood calm, bloody hand lowered. Hearing that before killing him feels oddly satisfying, he thought. Arsen Adel turned to the instructor. "Is that enough?" he asked with quiet confidence in his voice. The instructor nodded. "That was perfect. Now everyone, follow his example and begin your training." An instructor called out, "Half-demon cadets, step aside." Luna's eyes widened as she froze nervously. The selected cadets, including Luna and Arsen Adel, walked forward quietly, unsure of what awaited them next. Arsen Adel noticed more half-demons than expected. Others besides Luna and me, but she looked shaken. The instructor faced them with a smile. "You cadets will each kill your designated prisoner." Before them, prisoners knelt in a line, silent, still, awaiting their deaths under cold, purple light. Arsen Adel stared ahead, realization sinking in. These prisoners, they're not humans. They're half-demons like us. The instructor's voice rang out. "You must prove your loyalty. Show you are not like these traitors." Luna staggered, overwhelmed. One prisoner's words cut deep. "You know how much we've suffered because of you? Screams and panic erupted. Cadets lashed out, striking prisoners. "You deserve to die! Just die already!" Arsen Adel stood still, fists clenched. He watched silently as chaos erupted. "Has it begun?" he whispered to himself. Screams echoed as a body hit the floor. Blood pooled fast. "Help me!" someone begged weakly. A prisoner trembled, trying to crawl away. Arsen Adel stayed silent, watching the panic without blinking. A voice boomed from the shadows. "Devour them!" A monstrous green form appeared, eyes glowing with hunger. Luna screamed. Samuel's brutal magic tore the prisoners apart. He didn't need to be that cruel. Arsen Adel frowned slightly. Maybe Samuel didn't just follow orders. Maybe he truly wanted to tear humans apart. Luna had mentally broken down. Arsen Adel thought, if Instructor Idea sees her like this, she's finished. One cadet stepped forward confidently. "Instructor!" she called, catching Idea's attention with a calm, focused tone. She asked, "If I kill them using my ability, does that still count as passing?" Instructor Idea nodded. Well, yes." The cadet gave a short response. "Understood." Idea's voice deepened. "You are now bound to me. Kill the human next to you." Without hesitation, the girl obeyed. Her magic tore through the prisoner, ending him in one strike. The prisoner gasped. "Don't do this!" But her face remained blank, her hands stained with purple light. She said nothing, only staring forward as if what she had done meant nothing at all. Instructor Idea nodded. "Is that sufficient?" She replied quietly. "Yes. You pass. What you lack can improve." Arsen Adel watched her leave. Fron doesn't hate humans, but she's more fragile than I expected, he thought. "Cadet Luna," the instructor called. She trembled, barely able to stand, breath short and hands shaking. Idea grinned. "Prove it. Prove to me who you are." The room grew tenser. Arsen Adel's eyes narrowed. "If Luna can't complete this training, she'll be eliminated without mercy." Luna's voice cracked. "No, I can't. Please, just let me leave." Despair overtook every part of her.